talk about, knowing a lot of these players, and if you come from a former team, you have to consider this act as a double-edged sword when you know already how the IGL and comms are sounding.
Absolutely, yeah. It's going to definitely bring some interesting points. Like, they could overthink it. Like, that in the draft, I mean, there's help there. Like Crimzo has said, he's had help from Avery, who Avery, by the way, is in control of the draft. Captain on his side for Velocity. He is the sort of draft captain in his case, but maybe Crimzo's passed the keys off to Avery too, so that'd be an interesting choice considering, we've heard about Avery's leadership and stuff. And is interesting as like a rookie to this team too. He's really sort of taken charge in a team where he kind of needs to.
Highlights how they've been able to find that synergy together, work off of what they need to as the Ultron gets saved from both of these teams. No Invisiwoman though. Sentinels targeting that strategist lineup as the Mantis has always been that first pick that is banned.
I like that first ban phase, usually targeting these strats in the entire series, but Venom chosen as that fourth ban for Sentinels, not wanting to play against that Jeff Venom tandem, that combination with the healing output as well as the team up from Jeff alongside Venom. Meanwhile, they get the Invisiwoman on their own side alongside that Ultron to keep them healthy in the sky, and Torch is still getting through for both teams at the current moment.
Something that Aaron is going to be able to thrive off of here, but with the little demon Jeffrey being protected from the other side, as Sentinels cannot play it within their own advantage. We are moving on to Krakoa as we always start on domination, but that's something to highlight here as Jeff, as we've seen already before, could come in clutch in those domination maps, but it's the Ultron and the Invisiwoman that is saved here as Sentinels want to be able to make sure that backline is sustained.
It makes sense. I feel like for Sentinels, when I watch back their game versus 100 Thieves, that you and Cozy casted, I feel like the overall feeling I got from it was like, damn, they just can't keep their backline alive. Like every time in the sky, whenever Sentinels were trying to, play Jeff comp and stuff, which they fortunately in their case don't have to because it was banned. But they just really struggled at keeping people alive against the Torch. At least they don't have to play against it on their own on their own angle. But regardless, that's going to be a difficult problem for them. However, like we saw earlier, they're pretty solid on domination, right, Vicky?
Yeah, they're very strong here. And so being on domination, seeing how they're going to be able to work this into their strength. This is the X-Team Showdown, the revenge game, maybe the grudge match here, as we get this going on Krakoa. And remember when we were talking about Oracle earlier before? You see how big that tree is, man? I was like, how? But you know what? We get to navigate around this map, and I love it. It's one of my favorite maps personally here in Marvel Rivals. And as we get started, too, with our final series of the day, once again, for those of you guys tuning in at home, thank you so much. It is best of 5 though here in the Americas region, and these are two teams that we've been looking forward and seeing as we get started through the gates.
This is the most anticipated matchup, at least for me personally, and I'm sure for you as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, if you're wondering, just to reiterate it again, I mean, we bring it up every broadcast, obviously, but Smash is a roller player. He's on the sticks, on the controller. Not sure which one exactly he is. You'd have to go to his Twitch channel and, do exclamation point settings or whatever he does. But oh my God, off the rip, going in aggressively with this composition with the Star-Lord alongside the drone on top of him and the speed boost from the Jeff. Just goes in with the blaster barrage. Avery's already gone.
Yeah, when you let it rip like a Beyblade sometimes, it doesn't matter what output you're playing on out here because Smash is a very reliable duelist for DarkZero. I feel like he's also very much stepped it out as,
yeah, Avery also portaled too.
Yeah, that's why he swapped off.
Yeah, I mean, he was trying to come back and maybe try to clutch up too, and it makes sense to use it early, I guess, because if you do overtime and if you flip it back and forth, it's what, like 175, 180 down. So you'll get it up eventually, right? But now Sentinels, they switch comps, looks like. In general, they're going to go over to the group.
Crimzo Group, we've seen this time and time again, too, as Aramori slowly trying to approach alongside that of Nectar, but looking at DarkZero and the ult economy that they're about to have, right, amazing, with that extermination is something to highlight, and there's already 2 members of DarkZero trying to taking a flanking position. It is Korova. By the way, Korova flank Jeff was also something else to look out for in yesterday's series.
Absolutely. Great point, Vicky, and now they're going aggressive with the Ultron's Rage. Keeping everybody alive, portal away from Aramori to barely live. Impunity eventually chases her down, though. And she was close to that invisible boundary, so it's a 1-for-1. Meanwhile, in the sky, Smash committing the ultimate. But if the Jeff heals and the Luna, or it was enough to keep Madara alive on DarkZero's side until eventually falls. And Renko's ult runs out. Eventually, here comes the Strangling Prison. Catches out Smash. Just one for that Strangling Prison, but it's scrappy. It's back and forth at the current moment. DarkZero still want to control the point.
And Avery playing incredibly aggressive there too. He used the extermination just for an aggressive push, as well as Renko had to use up that sustainability with the Fit of Both Worlds. And Nectar is cleaning up whatever is left right now of DarkZero. Can't catch Kurova just yet in that slippery shark. But with Techie finding Madara, the number advantage goes in favor for Sentinels.
And he's trying to kind of just... Or they're trying to kind of create some space on the backside, at least flip the point. Yeah, Madara came in with the portal to stall it out, so that means DarkZero's portal was used. But regardless, yeah, building up to 87% on the board. And Sentinels, they get it done, at least for now, to keep that point. But DarkZero, they built up some percentage to go on their attack and, you know, do have a composition to sort of play, you know, scrappy. That's kind of why they're on that Rocket, Raccoon, Jeff, and Ultron. There's really not a single target you can maybe KO except Madara, and that's why Madara went down in that previous fight.
Madara having to be careful here, trying to build up into that Sonic Seduction, but creating space with Velocity, having that see ya. This is going to put them in the driver's seat. DarkZero just shooting blind now with Aramori having that invisible boundary, and Techie is the one that has that Psionic Seduction online, shooting through it, though, with DarkZero now trying to navigate away, getting out of that line of sight. They don't look behind them because it is Crimzo with the brute hug, Renko with the follow-up. Despite that, though, Smash is still able to find Aramori.
And as one hero you can't say that Crimzo lacks on is the tree. Root himself is basically the epitome of Crimzo, or he's the you know, soul of that hero. Avery in the sky, though, with the Ultron's Rage, trying to close out on DarkZero, push them off for now, in which he does.
Just taking a little book out of the Krakoa page right here, just trying to be the best Groot as Sentinels now. With their feet planted on this point and nearing 65%, Kurova does have that Jeff ultimate. Oh, Smash gets annihilated by Techie, but the Kurova ultimate, can he get away with it as he takes out Crimzo and Aramori? Oh no, the double wombo combo between spouses as Kurova is the perpetrator.
That's a screenshot for the old days, for sure. In the sky, though, Nectar finds one. Has the drone, so he can sustain for a little bit. Also, the missed grab from Madara. Rai able to stay alive around the corner. Duck back around. Nectar able to find Velocity, too. So they're working themselves back into it. Sentinels are, even though they lost that duo of Crimzo and Aramori. The portal also back up in time, too. So they did use it originally from Avery, but they still have that cooldown back up because it's gone long enough. And they're sustaining on this objective. No portal for the side of DarkZero. Sentinels surely get the flip.
Oh my, Avery's on fire, by the way, on this Ultron. We're seeing really impressive, pickoffs, and Techie as well with the follow-ups, as now Sentinels nearing 88%. DarkZero, they have some ultimates here in the bank to try to recontest.
Those ults are going to really matter, and let's see how Crimzo can connect with this Eye of Agamotto. Madara gets poked low, who is now on Magneto, by the way, to try to keep Kurova alive when he comes in with the HDF. Here comes Impunity. Starts it off with the Freedom Charge. Also, they layer on top of it Velocity's Rocket ult, so the See You Later committed as well. They want to go deep onto Sentinels, but they live. They thought maybe they could take advantage of the fact that they didn't have Stratus ult just yet, but it's Avery's ult here, and now they have the advantage to come back through on the backside. Everybody pocketing Avery, though, as he goes aggressive. They find Madara, though, on the main, and with him gone, that's a huge pick until the BRB brings it back. That's why they're playing Rocket, for example. Right, Amazing trades back Nectar, Avery as well, and the Impunity. Both of the Ultrons getting huge value in the sky. Crimzo comes back down, bubble in to keep their Jeff alive. Is the pocket enough to keep Kurova off of the map with whoever's in his mouth? He takes down Armory again. Missed Meteor M from Madara, but he might have created enough space to come back through in the sky with Smash in the air. Galactic Legend gets the bubble as well, and Avery falls to him. But is it enough? Will they find more? Renko goes down. No more Shrouded Souls. Crimzo tries to find something with his Eye of Agamotto, but does not. There's no more portal as well to bring Sentinels back into it and help reinforce as DarkZero claims that point.
Eye of Agamotto went blind real quick, but that was a really elongated fight. They utilized a lot, and that was with Sentinels having the survivability that they had. Invisible Boundary, the Luna Soul Fate of both worlds. They had Avery with the Extermination, and regardless of that, Velocity with the Rocket Ultimate as well as that BRB, as you mentioned, Dogman, helped them turn that fight.
Yeah, Vicky, I mean, this team is looking so much better. Like, DarkZero in general, no matter the result, right? Sentinels, too. Like, Sentinels, I think, had a hotter start, right, Vicky? It felt like. I don't know about you, but it did feel like Sentinels, like, started out hot in the tournament. But DarkZero has been, like, slowly bringing themselves back up, right? They look like a really good team.
30 seconds
I 100% agree. Again, that's really what highlights the character development of these teams from the beginning. DarkZero lost their first series in the group stage versus Nemesis. They have to terrorize that lower bracket just to get here. They literally had to play way more games just to be exactly where Sentinels is. Sentinels had to play 3. Here you had DarkZero. They had to play against Team Nemesis, YFP, Extinction, Team Nemesis again to win the run back. And that's why they are here. They've made those readjustments, but now with Sentinels, they brought it incredibly close. DarkZero, we're disrupting their backline.
And we'll see if they keep it up. You mentioned it earlier, but Kurova on Jeff has been a menace. Sentinels, obviously, they don't get to play Jeff because it was banned in the earlier ban phase, and Sentinel's going to keep out with their composition with that Luna Snow and the rest of the comp, but no ults just yet, Vicky, and this is going to be a slower start, it looks like, but the Ultrons you mentioned earlier have been a huge impact.
Keep it going here. Avery's about to have the extermination as Nectar activates the legendary first here. Oh no. They're actually able to get out of the line of sight just temporarily though. They're playing Ring Around the Rosie by the walls, avoiding Nectar and staying alive.
Yeah, but at least they sort of maybe force back that rocket and the Ultron because they're trying to play for their own lives. They're able to find out Madara, who comes to the portal. Velocity's res brings Amazing back. There's no res on the opposite side. Kurova sure goes down, but the portal's about to come from Madara. Actually, no, he gives up on it. They're stalling it out. Portal not coming from them, and Sentinels actually take the point because of, we said earlier, it was some nice movement from Rai. I mean, he tried to duck around, and he did save his own life, but unfortunately, he lost his main tank.
Yeah, exactly. They were so fixated on trying to stay alive there on the side point. You disrupt the back line, even if you don't find a pick. But that's your job here. If you're a Nectar, you're either trying to force out a strategist ultimate very early in these earlier rounds of domination, or you're able to find a pick from the other side of the Vanguards who do not have that support. And he has that extermination too, as Aramori was picked off a little earlier. She'll also have that invisible boundary shortly.
I already know in the comms, I bet too, like Crimson's like, guys, we need to piss off Rai. Like, we need to just make sure that he's upset. And now, looks like they are upset, DarkZero are, as they go in with that Ultron's rage, and Rai takes it out on the Sentinels and removes Techie and also Avery. Them being removed is huge. Kurova comes in with an itch Jeff too.
Oh, he's having so much fun with this Jeff. The fact that he constantly gets this impact, by the way, it's incredible. He looks like he's been having a ball from the backline because he's also trying to harass the backline himself as he could get away being on Jeff.
Yeah. I mean, I guess what do you do against it when, you know, you've given them Magneto, who can bubble him with that itch Jeff. You've also given them Ultron, who can throw the drone on him. It's tough to uproot such an annoying character, as cute as Jeff is. He is definitely annoying, in my opinion. But now they walk in, and oh no, Renko forced to use ult early. They want to go aggressive now.
Cute but deadly here, but at least using up this ult allows him to try to get back onto the point. Maybe a little too early, though, as the Meteor M comes slamming. Oh my, Madara got put in the microwave, burned alive here as he had no sustainability, no support, sadly. Smash is the next to go out, and it doesn't look like the Strategist being able to keep not only Amazing alive, Madara here, too. Smash goes out next, and now Sentinels are just walking up for free.
I mean, yeah, that was a block from Crimzo. I didn't even see Crimzo on the screen, but apparently he deflected it and got rid of Madara with his own Meteor M, which is insane.
Oh my.
Kurova, meanwhile, goes down. So off of a phenomenal play from Mr. Captain Canada in this case, because Crimzo is Canadian, smash in the sky. Trying to bring it back, but I mean, DarkZero's trying to stall out. This is what they did in the last point, it seems like, Vicky. Just make sure, even though it's scrappy and doesn't look pretty, as long as you get that tickage, it's worth it.
And trying to fight for it there, but what the stall is in favor of DarkZero getting that progress here as a finishing blow comes out once again from Nectar. Amazing Kurova haven't really been able to re-sustain after the last 2 fights here. Now Sentinels get to finally reclaim this point, and they didn't have to utilize everything. Crimzo still has that freedom charge. Avery with the extermination.
That's a great point. They have those available for the upcoming fight. Sentinels luckily able to kind of close out, though. Ryan made sure that at least the people trying to anchor the point and sort of flip it back and forth were eventually dealt with. And this is a back and forth brawl between 2 incredibly close teams. It seems like, at least on the first map on Krakoa, and it's, you know, showing up to be exactly everything we were hoping this game was going to be. And aggressive plays now coming through. Sentinels are aware of it. Go under Amazing into the sky with the Ultron's Rage, who gets the bubble. So great peel onto him. Here comes that is Jeff from Korova, who doesn't have the bubble on his backside because it was just used. Oh my god, gets deleted by Avery because of all the resources, but he's able to take Renko at least.
At least takes out Renko after you just were able to find 2 of the strategists is a W here. If you're Aramori being able to get away, and then the respawn 2 onto Korova thanks to Velocity having that BRB. They walk back up and they're able to flip the point while Teki was on the very edge of that point trying to stall.
Yeah, but at least to keep everybody alive, they commit also Invisible Boundary here from Aramori. Meteor M just yeets back into the back line. Here comes into the sky with the Galactic Legend. Nectar met with that Rocket Raccoon. See you later. They delete it eventually. And Rye in the sky. Can he get away? He's done it before, but is the pressure put out onto the back line enough to keep Impunity out of the fight? No, it's not, because Impunity trades back 1, but Nectar has been massive. Portal back and forth. Chasing down the Rocket Raccoon. Does he get the health pack, though? Back up on the other side. The cooldown off. Nectar, can he find the elimination with the Blaster Barrage? Does not. Velocity with 1 HP eventually goes down. Smash from the backside, though. Can he find the eliminations? The peel has been too good for Sentinels this map. Techi's able to take down Impunity. Portal's here from Aramori late.
Velocity fighting for his life back there. Overtime ticking away as Aramori portals everybody back to contest now. At DarkZero, they're down in numbers. Lost out on Impunity. They've lost out on Smash. Crimzo leading the way here, but it is Nectar in the driver's seat to set up Sentinels for success.
Beautiful round from Sentinels, and this is what we talked about. DarkZero looking good on the previous map, figuring out what they needed to work on last week. You know, this week looking very coordinated on their dives and their aggression, right? But now, this time, Sentinels, what they needed to work on was peeling backline. What we saw yesterday, keeping, you know, the backline alive. Renko keeping Aramori alive, making sure they're healthy. And they did it so well on that map, keeping Aramori and Renko healthy alongside Avery. Huge work from the Vanguard line and strategists. More importantly, Nectar, like you said, doing so much work, taking down basically everybody by himself.
Literally, like, although you see the 10 final hits right there, Avery in that first round also was able to put things down and also start off really well on that second round, and also now has that extermination going into this third round, something else that Avery had in that second round too.
We'll see on this next map what the change is, and comp-wise, it's going to be nothing, Vicky, at the meantime. It's just, you know, keep it steady, right? Make sure that, you know, you use your ultimates at the right time. Ultron's Rage has been big for Rymazing. We saw in that last fight, I mean, Rymazing was going so aggressive, had to get Bubble out of it, but it cost Korova his life because he was not able to go in with that It's Jeff. And Sentinels now, meanwhile, they get that first sort of point control where DarkZero take that rotate all the way around.
It's been just enough here as Crimzo also has that freedom charge. Rymazing has a sustainability, and Korova could do Korova shenanigans with the It's Jeff. Before Sentinels now make their way onto the point first, are ready to start things off. There goes that extermination, but Smash finding Avery first is even bigger, as Avery will not have that same sustain to keep Sentinels up, and then Korova just goes in for a follow-up. It's a buffet here, as it is 3 members off from the table here between Crimzo, Aramor, and Renko.
Yeah, might as well jump in the pit too, Nectar, while you're at it. Huge Jeff ult by Korova. Rest in Poppy in the spike pit is the side of Sentinels.
F. Oh, man. I love that little flyby. Shout out to production, by the way, having a giggle at that too. But Korova definitely having a good time here, but they have to lock in 1-1 apiece with Sentinels having Avery now coming back with that extermination as well as he was unable to use it before.
That's a good point. We'll see how it pans out for Sentinels. We've seen how important, oh my goodness, the tracking from Nectar there. Forcing Rymazing to fall back. No more cooldowns to keep himself alive. But they do have the BRB shortly to bring him back, and there he is. Back in the fight, Meteor M from Madara. Can it connect this time around? It does, sort of, onto Crimzo's shield. At least breaks in the meantime. And also, nobody can deal with this Rocket ult. That's the tough part of these Star Lord comps. They actually don't really deal with Rocket ult all that well, but eventually it goes down. Avery in the sky, trying to find something with Ultron Rage, at least force back these strategists, maybe find Impunity, find some in the front line, but that freedom charge negated it for the meantime. In the meantime, here comes Smash in the sky. Eventually, they do lose a Vanguard. Madara, again, has been a target for Sentinels to focus on, especially since they do have that Emma Frost advantage, and they're taking full advantage of it. Fully charged Emma Frost towards the point. DarkZero have nothing in terms of ultimate charge just yet. They're just trying to fight for their lives back here.
Yeah, with Korova going down too, which is basically leaning into Rymazing, wanting to build into that Ultron Rage here as Sentinels now. Down 4 of these members, DarkZero, Madara having that Doctor Strange portals right back in, but with the Invisible Boundary met at the hands of Aramori, Techi's able to shut down Rymazing before he can even fully utilize that Ultron ultimate here. They're keeping each other alive, but it's portal play for portal play as Avery is bringing everybody back into, rather DarkZero coming in together with Sentinels.
I think that was Rymazing accidentally going through the portal on the opposite side. Smash trades back Aramori. And it's just Some stall out from the side of DarkZero now, and Smash still finds another one. Holy crap. That controller aim assist is no joke, but at the current moment, I don't know, man. Like, I feel like the scariest targets, I don't know about you, Vicky, but the scariest targets to deal with for me, at least, is like a fully charged Emma Frost on point, and these Star-Lords. Blaster barrage has been disgusting.
It's so scary, especially when you know the Emma Frost is just eating for free. It has 100% damage output here, but with the slight stall, you know, you get right back down to 0. You have to boost it back up again. And Crimzo, with the survivability that Crimzo has the Freedom Charge ready to go on the Captain America. He's also trying to eye out Madara, who wants to get that Meteor M, as the impact hasn't necessarily been all there with Crimzo having him in his eyes.
And Crimzo is being focused for now, at least. Same thing with Tenki. Sonic Seduction. Does it connect onto anybody? Knows the bubble's there. It just forces cooldowns out at the very least, but does the follow-up from Sentinels there at all? Yes, it is. In fact, they deal with impunity, but the res brings him back. BRB advantage has been so big. And also, here's that Rocket Raccoon. With that see you later towards the point, they find Teki too, removing him. Teki's res, though, with another BRB. Also, the Meteor M not connecting from Madara on the backside. Crimzo keeps his team healthy, but here's a huge ultimate committed by Kurova. Does he find anything? He finds the Captain America into the sky, though. Both of these Star-Lords, Galactic Legends, aim assist. It doesn't matter at that point because your character's ultimate is an aimbot, and Nectar on his backside takes down his counterpart. Then also, Amazing. So huge work from Nectar. Sentinel still in control at that point. They stave off DarkZero for now.
Nectar timing his ultimates in such a lovely way too, knowing DarkZero really didn't have anything to help survive through that legendary, and now it's just the one last straggler being Impunity, running for his life on the Captain America so that way the stacker does not come out.
I mean, huge work, and ultimates now in their edge. We're entering 90% of the board. DarkZero, they could lose it here and now. I mean, no ultimates. How do they get it done? Is it a dive from Impunity? With Smash, how do they make it work? We'll find out in a moment. I mean, somebody's got a touch too. So many things you have to worry about. Is the Jeff there? 98. Here comes the Cap to touch. Cooldown used to dash to that point. But now you know that Cap is just there to kind of anchor. Can Sentinels take advantage of it?
Now the rest of DarkZero now moving in. You talk about Tom Nook coming to collect his money. It's Aramori being on that rocket. And with that see ya, Avery gets a follow-up. Renko gets Impunity. And they're dropping like flies with Sentinels moving rent-free on this point.
Huge map from Sentinels. A comeback there too. Krakoa goes the way of them. What a series we have on our hands, folks, as Sentinels take game number 1 in this best out of 5, sorry, as we, enter the end of the group stages. And not only is it proceeding, but it's also, like you mentioned earlier, a revenge game for DarkZero, not on the roster anymore, leaving to that separate team entirely and being replaced by 2 young guns. And Sentinels, at the moment, I mean, they've made their first message, the message being, we have the better roster.
Yeah, you look at Nectar and the impact Nectar had alone. Teki, the damage output on that Emma Frost. Crimzo just nailing down that Magneto too with the Meteor M's and having that Freedom Charge ready to go to help stall out. It was back and forth a lot, very scrappy, but even with these game-breaking plays that we currently saw from Kurova trying to isolate some of the strategists, you have to remember, when Jeff is off the table, that's another one of your own respective strategists that are also not there to help you out. So if you don't get to cycle through those strategist ultimates and there's Sentinels still able to put in a lot of oppressive damage, it can be a little tricky to try to restabilize from that too.
Yeah, absolutely. And an incredible series back and forth between both sides, but it is interesting how, hero pool-wise, we're seeing some things change for DarkZero. I mean, I'm not going to say Smash was the wrong choice to play Star-Lord there, but it's also like Rai was always on the back foot, it felt like, right? Like, every time we saw him play Ultron, he was doing, well for sure. But, I mean, Sentinels was making his life absolute, chaotic, right?
Yeah, it was difficult, but Crimzo too, with the way that they were able to keep stalling out that point before DarkZero had eventually flipped it here, leads the way as the MVP, 35 KOs, 6 going down here too. But looking at overall the way that this team is actually standing up against DarkZero, Nectar, Teki, the survivability too, and the damage output that we had Avery on being on that Ultron, 16 final hits prior to that, having more final hits than what we see right here from Crimzo.
Yeah, I mean, Crimzo was doing so much for this squad on top of that brief deflect, too, with the shield. I mean, incredible work from the captain of Sentinels. And, we'll see if this series goes to a 5-mapper. It has the potential, but Sentinels, I mean, ban phase-wise, it worked out for them. It seems like they caved up that Jeff and took full advantage of Teki on the Emma Frost, right? You mentioned how strong that hero is, and it seemed like there wasn't much that could be done against it.
Yeah, side by side, even just looking at the stats alone, in all honesty, Amazing got diffed being on the Ultron versus Avery. Avery not only had so much more impact in terms of healing, but also the damage output as well as getting those KOs, Dogman.
Avery looking good, but we'll see if game number 2 they can look as solid. It's coming up in a second after this short break. Sentinels versus DarkZero is well underway, and we're entering map number 2. Vicky, we are going to a brand new map, and I'll let you intro it because this is the chance maybe for DarkZero to reverse sweep or to come back in the series to put a point on the board.
Yeah, DarkZero takes Sentinels to Central Park, and this will be the first time that Sentinels will be playing on Central Park, whereas DarkZero, I believe they're 1-0 on this map, so trying to get the upper hand here already going into map number 2 to flip the script currently with Sentinels leading the series.
You know, it's going to be interesting to see if Sentinels can maybe actually do something about this, right? Because like you said, it is a new look for them. And, you know, huge shout out to FG behind the scenes and Patrick keeping that information all for us and, you know, keeping it steady. Because at the moment, yeah, it is interesting that this is going to be Sentinels' first time on it. And DarkZero, I'm sure, are well studied on it and know that maybe there's something you could do about it here, right? Ban phase wise, we know Crimso's going to play the Groot. What can we do against it for DarkZero?
Yeah, and the Captain America impact too that we even saw at some points. But going into Central Park, we're going to see a little mix of things here. I'm expecting maybe that triple Vanguard, triple Strategist lineup to start rolling out. As we usually see, it's not really as much of a tradition when it comes to domination maps, but being able to have that hold, especially on defense. We just saw Central Park against Rad versus Envy, right? And we saw the impact that had, even with some interesting bans. But we got to see what the pick and ban phase is going to look like going next, because obviously Nectar was on another level rival Avery here too on that Ultron? Are we going to have these Ultron bands coming out? Because the verticality and the ability to get out of line of sight utilizing the roofs of this map is really nice. Until you get really to that third point, you could get away with a lot.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. There's so much cover, so much versatility in terms of what comps you can play, especially in Rivals where every flyer is usually constantly flying. And then there's some heroes, like you said, with Star-Lord, who is kind of like a semi-flyer, just with those, rocket packs, always in the sky, dealing with torches. And you mentioned Star-Lord. I mean, that's a character that even some teams are banning out now, at least in those last ban phases. We've seen that Venom ban on the previous one. You said that it maybe could be something here. I wouldn't mind it, honestly. I'm kind of with you.
Yeah, Venom would be great. I'm not expecting the Mantis to pass through again. Both of these teams were very well aware. Yeah, we're very well aware of getting that out of here. I am interested to see, though, if one of these teams will let the Atom pass. If we're getting a swap up of these different bans, I do believe Sentinels had banned out the Invisible Woman against DarkZero 2, which also made things a little tricky, right? Because Rymazing, as great as Rymazing has been, whether it be on other flyers or, the Ultron, the Torch, Rymazing definitely didn't have the same impact that Avery had on the Ultron. So looking at what that strategist lineup is going to look like, Kurova's looking like he's having way too much fun on the Jeff. Maybe the Jeff will be out there, or maybe not. Maybe, because considering we are in Central Park, we get to see how that could be disrupted a little bit if we're going to see that Animal Crossing lineup back up, or if we're going to be able to lean into a much more main strategist.
Yeah, I wonder if they will, because it makes sense that Kurova has been so dominant on it, like you said, and also Jeff on Central Park is crazy and is always something to be worried about. But we're going to enter the series now into that ban phase between Sentinels and DarkZero. And, going over to this map is the choice of DarkZero because, we go loser picks. Obviously, the first map on Domination is a random out of any Domination that we have in our pool. And then after that, you can pick between Convoy and Convergence. And then, once that Convergence map, in this case for Central Park, is picked, then we go to Convoy. And if it goes to a map 4, we reset all over again on Domination. So for the side of Sentinels and DarkZero, they're doing exactly as you said, Vicky, removing both Mantises ASAP.
Get that out of here. But the protection over onto the Ultron is smart here if you are looking at DarkZero, because if they want to try to work out something different, maybe try to lean into, all right, that first map didn't work out for us, but then the ban on the Atom Warlock retains here for Sentinels, as they do not want DarkZero to lean into that too, and they're going to try to diff the Ultron after seeing that they had protected it from the other side.
Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense, especially on this map. We've seen how strong Ultron can be, and you called it earlier. Atom Warlock removed, though, on the backside, so it looks like they're trying to stay with a somewhat typical comp, I guess, right? Because that last map was so close, maybe, right? There's so many things, so many reasons why that could be the case.
Gonna let the torch pass through. Oh, the Captain America being a problem is something DarkZero has acknowledged here from Sentinels. Crimzo was constantly there and trying to be able to block out the Meteor M's from the Magneto. And if you do want to stick to the Jeff composition, having a Magneto on your team for those bubbles always comes in clutch.
Yeah, absolutely. If the last series was like, I don't know, Blue Jays, Yankees, game 1. This one's looking a lot more like Dodgers versus Phillies. Sorry, baseball heads, had to do something there. But right now, Sentinels protected him as a woman, like you said, and the torch ban for DarkZero again. Don't want to play against it, it seems like, this time around. They really have prioritized that ban.
Yeah, if you're going to have the Ultron flying around, the last thing you need is for a reset opportunity with that Torch. Torch equally just as good on Central Park. Home base, I guess, if you want to see it, as Invisible Woman is the next one saved here for both teams.
That is interesting. Yeah, keeping the Sky Lord alive in Ultron, and making sure also more Sky or anti-air or fellow aerial enjoyers are not there, and getting rid of a lot of strategists is DarkZero's game plan, or rather Sentinel's game plan onto DarkZero. And this is something that we've seen against other top teams, and it kind of works out, right? Banning only strategists.
I like this here. Smash is the one hovering over that Ultron here instead of what we had seen prior from Rymazing, who's now on the Namor. They're going to be running out the Hulk and Namor composition, so already changing things up, as I like to see it, as we get started with our second game now going into Central Park.
I see the adaptation from Sentinels to that ban phase, right? And DarkZero, like you said, that change up maybe over to Hulk and Namor. We've seen Rai also be an incredibly strong Namor in the past as well. I mean, they're pretty much one of the, I guess, most matchups in the history of NA, at least American Marvel Rivals Esports, is you know, Delena versus Rymazing on a lot of the hit scan heroes, and it was eventually transitioned into, you know, okay, Delena's a pretty good Hela and also Namor, but Ryze picked it up pretty well recently as well. Has been one of those top players, and that is an interesting choice as well to put Smash over to that Ultron. So let's see if it pans out for DarkZero on their attack, whereas Sentinels are going to run that Groot that we talked about earlier.
I like that side by side because it's funny because Zelena also picked up the Ultron, right? So we're kind of seeing that theme proceed here with Rymazing now being on that Namor, making a little swap up with Smash instead, taking control over that Ultron to change things up here. But that's also allowing Rymazing, because Torch wasn't banned, so if they have to make swaps, that still is available for them. So the Torch and Ultron are available for DarkZero, whereas it's not for Sentinels, with Sentinels holding onto this defense already and Nectar being on the Bucky.
Playing it slow at the moment. Nobody really making a move just yet. DarkZero's comp kind of works like that, right? Where it's this King comp where they play heavily around that Namor. And also the Terror Cape in this case comes in, but the Groot Wall slow it down for now on Sentinel's side, disrupting the push. But right now, Rye is set up on the top side. What can he do with it? Meanwhile, it's Nectar outputting the damage. Madara, he falls through that output from Nectar. You mentioned earlier how good Nectar is, and they're looking phenomenal.
Dude, I want to eat whatever Nectar had for breakfast, because Nectar today, I mean, Nectar's always a very solid duelist, but specifically in this matchup, he is stepping up with the impact that he's had. Last game, 41 and 7, 15 final hits. You combine that together with Mommy Emma having all the damned output she could have, Techie holding that front line. I mean, it's a very brutal and a high damage impact that you have to think about here, but DarkZero will be able to now make the rotation here with Kurova having that invisible boundary.
I'm going to take a wild guess and assume he ate a peach. Meanwhile, they come in. Ultron's Rage, push back the DarkZero side, stun up, Impunity. Here comes that ultimate with the whale to stall out, or at least he's yeeted out there, it seems like, for Rymazing into that invisible boundary from Kurova. Playing slow. Every ult pretty much popped in the last fight, besides Renko, who's coming up on his. Same thing with Impunity. Renko builds it up, but they lose Techie in the meanwhile. Can they come back? Impunity has built up the Hulk ult, ready to go. If he needs to use it, also disrupt this backline. Make sure nobody's comfortable. However, Bucky does pretty well against Hulk, right? At the moment, it's on me on Rymazing. We've seen it phenomenal. Namor play on this point. Can Rye pop off, though? He's not on the height like we've seen other Namors do. Already forced to use his shift. Portal is here, though, for this defense on Sentinel's side, so they're going to stall it out, even though the picks are being found by Rye.
That was nice. Turning around, making sure Nectar has no opportunity to back away, as now Sentinels, their defense is crumbling right before their feet. That's even with Techie trying to make the comeback after swapping off the Emma Frost over to the Doctor Strange to portal right back around. Used it up earlier, now swaps back towards the Emma Frost, and DarkZero have a plethora of ultimates in this next upcoming fight.
And with the map unbroken, we'll see this team sort of set up their flanks, right? But on the defensive point, usually this is where we see teams start to get those, first holds. Meanwhile, DarkZero, they're playing it slow right now with those flanks. Cart's still in their favor, though. Sentinels walk up above it on the bridge side angle. Really just kind of going as a cohesive unit, but Rymazing on the top side. Headshot on Renko. Of course, got the freeze, too, which is interesting. That might impact the game later on. Ultron's Rage as well onto this back line. But again, Sentinel's looking so improved at healing this off instead. Rymazing, though, counterpoint. Giant Trident in the whale in your face.
The Moby Dick coming out now. The Terror Cape to follow. You talk about utilizing that freeze. It gives more room for Impunity to breathe and get aggressive, especially when he has to worry about Nectar here, but he doesn't really have to when Rymazing is literally not getting contested on this bridge.
I was going to compliment Sentinels how well they kept their backline alive. However, well, they lost Nectar. So, tough fight for them, but at least some ults used, right? Like you mentioned, and now Sentinels get to walk in with the few ultimates they have.
Way better this time around since DarkZero used just a bit of that last fight, and now just focusing with the squid damage here up on the high ground. Once again, uncontested by Rymazing, and now Crimzo brings everybody together. They try to get the Wombo combo together with Nectar, but it falls short. The Eternal Bond met with Velocity keeps everybody in DarkZero alive. They're going to cycle that with Kurova survivability on the invisible boundary, and with the Psionic Seduction from Techie trying to turn the tides, it's going to be met invisible boundary to invisible boundary, looking like a Venn diagram, with Sentinels clearing the floor, taking control of this fight and wiping out DarkZero.
You mentioned Techie on the last map, how good he was, and on this one, looking to repeat that performance. And getting those eliminations through both Stratus ults is huge for sure. As we're even in that Ultron's Rage department. I mean, Impunity can go off. We've seen him do it before, too. This was also a recent pickup. More of a not talked about one, I think, with Impunity joining this roster from Shroud X. He's been a big part of this roster for sure, you know, on Hulk.
Probably the best, honestly, from Shroud Egg. So DarkZero bringing all the good pieces together, but with Nectar getting a little bit of revenge. He's found Smash in the middle of that extermination. Now, Impunity had gotten the reset, but Nectar is upset. Finds the revenge onto Rymazing right afterwards, and now is keeping Sentinels here.
Was he blinded there too? That was an insane shot from the meatball out of the bullet, or out of the gun for Nectar. And now they're starting to string these fights together, Vicky. This is a little bit worrisome for DarkZero. Back-to-back losses.
This is the part of the second checkpoint, too, that is the most difficult, in my honest opinion. You have the card so close to that checkpoint, but now you're being fully held. You're trying to take to the skies. Rymazing made the swap over to the torch, trying to stay alive while looking at Avery here, but it's going to be hard when you also have Nectar landing so many of these shots.
Over the top side, here comes Madara with that Sonic Seduction, starting it out really early. Meanwhile, Diamond Form on the backside, trying to do a lot of damage. Rymazing in the sky, trying to pressure out at least some strat ults, but hasn't had the opportunity here in the sky. Avery commits that Ultron's Rage alongside the Meteor M. Can it find the back line? It doesn't. In fact, Crimson goes down. So does Avery. Rymazing, no way, shutting down those two members. Both with ultimates, in fact. So Meteor M removed. Ultron's Rage gone. Nothing else for the defensive side of Sentinels. And back to the spawn they go off of incredible torch play.
Bro, Sentinels had the win ult economy for the start of that engagement when Madara had opened up with that Scion Seduction. That was insane. Honestly, that Meteor M with the slam down, I was wondering if that one strategist was going to get picked off, being very limited space there. But no, looking at the skies, it was Rymazing who no one was focusing on being on the torch.
And this was what we talked about with Sentinels' problem. We talked about at the very beginning, Vicky, you and I, with Sentinels struggling versus Torch players, right? We've seen that yesterday as well versus 100 Thieves. We'll see if that narrative continues, though. Here comes an ultimate from the backside of Renko, but at the moment, DarkZero's made it very far. I mean, even today, we haven't seen teams even make it out of second phase of the map. Crimzo falls, though. That's a terrible pick. Nectar soon to follow. And with that Sonic Seduction, that ends this fight right out.
You let Rymazing have the torch in Central Park, and nonetheless, again, something that Sentinels cannot pull out. But Nectar making the swap over to the Star-Lord, and DarkZero with less than 50 seconds on the clock are looking to hold this space and keep this aggression up.
Ult's ready to go. Smash on the top side with the Ultron's Rage. Truly going to dive in with Impunity and Rye. How do Sentinels recover from this? They have no ult. Coming on the Ultron's Rage. Is that going to be enough to keep them alive? Smash in the sky with his own. Forcing them back into spawn. Ultron's Rage is here, but it has to touch Cart. Somebody has to. It's going to be Nectar. Avery taking so much damage with the Snowflake. Can he be kept alive? The healing is good. Crimzo's back with a BRB2. But do they have enough people to even stall it out? Techie coming up with that ultimate in a moment. Bubble onto Avery. Somehow keeping him alive is the back line. But then they lose that back line. Renko and Armory immediately fall. And with that torch burning bright in the sky, Sentinels really are trying to rely on Nectar and Avery, the newcomers. They find two, they find three. Are you kidding me? Nectar, you absolute god, saving Sentinels potentially here as net velocity. He finds one at the very least, but can they find more? Techie on the velocities. The newcomers of Sentinels get it done in overtime. Portal is going to come, but is it going to be too late? Overtime about to tick down. They don't make it through. DarkZero gets stopped.
Are you kidding me? The Magneto bubble into the Star-Lord. Oh, that was crazy turnaround. Literally, what we just witnessed from Sentinels there in the second checkpoint just happened to DarkZero when they were less than 1 meter away from the finish line.
My God. Whew. I didn't know how Sentinels would come back. Genuinely 1% win condition there, Vicky, wasn't it? Like, that is crazy. How do you even do that? How do you come back from that? I mean, huge ultimate plays from Nectar, obviously, and Avery. I mean, what more can you say about those two?
Nectar is juiced up, man. He's juiced. He is juiced on this team, and all the pieces of Sentinels are helping him be enabled to pop off. Yeah. 12-5 thus far, but remember, they were holding DarkZero earlier on before that second checkpoint prior to that, and still, DarkZero had a good amount of momentum. Moving forward, though, Aramori having to be a little careful here now, making the swap-ups that we're currently seeing before they start things off on the attack. But even better, looking at DarkZero, looking at Rymazing, making that swap-up to the torch. Obviously, the Hulk, and then the more, yeah, they were getting those crucial picks there when they were trying to push on the attack, even taking flanking routes, but that torch was scary.
Right, and that leads us to the, current, board state almost of this Rivals match. It's that, for as good as Nectar's hero play was alongside Avery in that hold from Sentinels, they still almost you know, had the entire map capped on him. And, you know, even today we've seen first point holds, and especially like you mentioned, that torch. I mean, can they overcome it? Sentinels at the current moment. And it looks like they're trying to do it through the Bucky of Nectar again.
Oh my gosh. So what do you call it? Meatball shots? Because that's literally what it looks like.
It's crazy.
When he's hitting each and every single. Look at back to back. And the focus, the split focus right now too. This is so important to highlight if you're trying to grow as a player, because you're not giving up space, you're not giving up pressure, but you're also helping peeling for your backline too.
Unfortunately for Bucky, I mean, so much utility in that character now. Can send Rymazing down to the ground with his ease, also with that bionic hook, trying to go for something, gets pulled in by that force physics on the opposite side. But nothing happens just yet. This is kind of how these teams played right now. Stratus ult's built right now. Avery comes in with that Ultron's Rage. DarkZero coming up on their own, almost. Smash is so close. They're forced to use their greens, the regain domain, but no, they stay alive. They're built up that Ultron's Rage on the top side. Rye's also very aggressive now. Everybody's caught out now, or at least Avery on that opposite side. Rye finds two. In the sky on torch.
Yeah, and with the invisible boundary called in from Aramori, Rymazing just got away with putting out not only so much pressure, but basically wasting up that invisible boundary, right? It wasn't going to really help out with the sustained long term to get any sort of progress on that point. We're lacking in numbers already, so now that's one Shredder's ultimate that they will not have for this next upcoming fight.
And for some reason, mentally, I saw Avery go down on Sentinels, and I thought it was Rymazing, you know, just because he was on Sentinels for so long. Not to rub salt in the wound to sorry Sentinels fans about that transition today. DarkZero are trying to make it smooth, though, with 2 minutes left to go. They have that Strangling Prison ready to go, but Sentinels, you know, off 2 minutes off the clock. That definitely digs into you mentally.
Oh, Fear Magneto. Meter Ram gets blown up in his hands. Can't even send it out here. Techie now having to reset, and Rymazing can't get away in time. Techie, he's like, all right, it didn't hit you in the head, but it's fine. At least this projectile can, and they do get the trade-off, though, because Smash is able to find Nectar despite these strategist ultimates that are being called in. Invisible boundary from Korova, bringing everyone together is going to be Crimzo, though, and that's after Renko had also used up the fate of both worlds to allow Sentinels to move up.
Yeah, I just got distracted in that fight as eventually DarkZero get it done. Despite losing Rymazing, that ragdoll was just so funny. He just, like, got KO'd, smacks into the pillar. It's always Rye on this map, too. It's like Central Park. He gets kidnapped by Terra. A little bit of a baby rage moment. I mean, you remember that, too, from Stage 1?
I remember. That was hilarious. The ragdoll effects is always some of my favorites when it comes to games like this as well. And Sentinels, some of their favorites is going to be that Ultron ultimate too, right? Avery had so much impact prior with this Ultron. Aramori taking a good amount of damage. She will be fine though, as Nectar also has a Star-Lord legendary here. Nothing sweet about this gameplay here. That's why they call him Nectar though, as he's going to be able to push it down onto impunity. Madara gets stunned temporarily, and Korova gets also frozen by Renko.
Yeah, I mean, that's a nice pick off, but at the meantime, they're going to rely on Nectar, you mentioned them earlier. 48 seconds left to go. Into the inside. Finds one, finds two. The follow-up's there. And this is what we saw at the end of their defense. But can they keep it up? The portal is here. Rymazing goes through it just to live back into the spawn. Nectar trying to find them with the Blast of Barrage. The movement's good, but impunity falls again. And that happened before. Also the body block, too, so nobody could touch the point. Nice work from Sentinels.
That was so close, too. They like just were able to escape out of the mouth of that portal right when Sentinels were able to claim that point. And now the payload's going to start moving. And DarkZero, looking at where their position is going to be on the defense here, Sentinels are already getting into the position to control more of that space.
Well versed in the body block for sure, is a lot of these incredibly talented players. Ryan in the sky, though, gets those right-handed peaks this time that he didn't get on offense, right? So in the meantime, DarkZero trying to fight for that space, make sure that they can maybe set up Nectar to go aggressive. Supernova available, pops it. Takes a lot of damage, has to fall back, though. Nice work from Nectar to pressure out that torch, stave off at least some of the damage of that Supernova.
Sentinels still having these 4 ultimates ready to go, nearing 5 with the Fate of Both Worlds from Renko, though. And finding Smash! The man's not missing. He's dripping with confidence, living up to the name once again, but trying to avoid the Sonic Seduction. He gets scalded by it, but is able to still get into the safety of the invisible boundary first.
And they're still walking up 2 off of that. Here comes the Ultron's Rage. Follow-up is there. Korova way too late with this invisible boundary, unfortunately. They're going to stall out for sure at the very least for that cart. It's only 2 members, though, just Korova and his Vanguard in Madara. They'll have ults at the very least, but it's a tough pill to swallow, losing him there and that ult.
Nectar still getting these crucial picks here too in the sky. Nobody is safe. DarkZero, though, with Smash going down first early in that previous fight, will be able to have the Extermination coming in. Velocity making that swap up too, having that Loki. Could get that God of Mischief online just to allow DarkZero to control more space, because with Sentinels trying to match that with Renko having the fit of both worlds, they're pushing all the way up.
They are. Unfortunately not aggressive enough, though, on the inside to find a pick. Here comes that invisible boundary from Velocity, who's on Loki. We talked about how that hero's been sort of on the comeback, even though he got nerfed in the previous patch. Now comes that dive from Techie, taken down by Rymazing, when they didn't really have much to work with either, so that's a huge pick. When he had Feast of Abyss, too, in terms of Techie's side, this Galactic Legend is used more as a zoning tool for now. Madara did fall at the very least. So he's going to come back on Doctor Strange, but Ryan's done a great job of just harassing and falling back. However, Nectar now here in the sky, flipping twice to get those info and frames. Avery with the follow-up, trying to find actually some of those members in the sky. That regenerative domain keeping everybody healthy too. Those are gone. Cooldown's used, Impunity's down again. Target focused for sure. Huge work from Sentinels.
That was huge too. Right out of the Beast of the Abyss too, it looked like right after he tried to use it, getting stunned and then getting taken out. The Supernova now coming in for Rymazing while Smash tries to keep everyone alive, tries to build up some space, but he's taking a lot of damage himself. Needs some help, still able to find that pick onto Techie. Even bigger though is going to be Nectar finding that pick onto Rymazing. Kurova does have that sustainability with the invisible boundary. Crimzo close to that sound of seduction. As it's called in though, slowing things down, Nectar's forced to back away.
7 seconds left to go. Crimzo now pops it. Straddle's used. Kurova using his velocities coming up. They lose Crimzo in the middle of the fight. Renko's not even close at all. Sonic Seduction on defense. Can they get Straddle assaults? Can they make a hero play like they did before? Teleport out from Crimzo or from Techie. Renko's close to that. Luna Snow dance floor. They lose Avery with the Ultron's Rage. The damage out from Madara has been huge. They lose everybody. It's just Crimzo and Renko. Nectar's going to come back. Can they clutch it up again? The newbies. Portal's not going to be up, I think, in time for Avery to even come back to the portal, so he's going to make that slow crawl back from spawn. Overtime ticks down. Portal block came through, and nobody else is here from Sentinel's side. Job done for DarkZero. They tied the series 1-1.
Very clean and calling out the timing, too, of those staggers at the very end. Talk about a turnaround here for DarkZero to take Central Park.
A huge turnaround, and this is what we saw. It's very hard to cap out the whole map, right? So,
yeah.
I mean, really heroic plays out of them on the defense. But, yeah, the moment we go over to offense, Vicky, you called it, it's always going to be tough versus, I mean, Torch, right? And it seems like those issues Sentinels had yesterday versus 100 Thieves seem to be plaguing them today.
Yeah, something else to note is just looking at the way that DarkZero had to make the adjustments that they needed with Rymazing out of the portal right back in. They still elongated that fight in their favor to boost up those ultimates too. Velocity over onto that Loki. But it's even crazier to see how DarkZero, it was a pretty close first game, right, versus Sentinels. But even going into Central Park where they had the advantage, we talked about the map stats before. This is the first time that Sentinels has played on Central Park for Stage 2 here in Americas. So with Rymazing knowing that, being able to still flex over to Torch, Nectar was still a problem in the equation for Sentinels, but DarkZero making the swaps that they had to make, I don't think, honestly, Dogman, I don't think I've seen many of these Central Park games end up with teams making it to the very end. Yeah,
no, that's a good callback. I mean, at the beginning you mentioned how this is the first time they play it, right? And they play on Central Park. Now we'll see what happens as the next map pick comes through. We'll head to another domination, and that could change, you know, the trajectory of Sentinels, right? We saw the last map, you know, obviously before Central Park was a big map for Sentinels, or at least we're going to Convoy, sorry, not Domination next. I forgot that this is only the second map. It was such a long one that it almost felt like we were entering a game number 4 already, but maybe that's just what I want, right? But showing some bias. MVP will be Rymazing from that series for good reason. The Doctor Strange portal to come back, you know, was the last hero he was on, but really he was phenomenal on Torch throughout the map.
Yeah, exactly. Was on majority of that Torch here until the very end. 37 KOs, by the way, at 34,000 damage output. What we were talking about, Nectar being able to find a lot of those final hits, he did 26,000, just to put into perspective how much damage output Human Torch has, and especially on a map like Central Park 2, where it really helps him get out of line of sight of the enemy line of sight, just so that way he can help with the survivability too.
Yeah, I mean, he was dominant straight up, right? And it's kind of been interesting because I feel like at least I've been biased towards these like triple Stratus compositions, but we're kind of, well, I mean, I guess it is still triple Stratus, but you know, the top Torch players can still hard carry like we saw. Not that it was just him, it was Impunity creating space and stuff too, but phenomenal work from DarkZero to tie up the series. Now we're tied up 1-1. And, oh, man, I wonder what's going to happen after this, in this next little series as we go to map number 3 in a bit.
Yeah, I can't wait to see how this plays out here too. But also something else that we have to call out here, Hella, being a really nice skin to definitely look out for. If you guys have already heard about the Emma Frost skin and you haven't copped the Hella Grim Lady skin yet, what are you doing? Because look at how amazing that skin looks.
Yeah, and if you're a competitive nerd, if you're a hardcore nerd, it removes the cape, by the way, so that's huge. Oh. It's great. Thank God. Screw that.
I love how you know that. I love how you get to call that out. It's like that is absolutely a dog band line. I love it. So here you have it.
I'm just all for removing screen clutter. That's why I like the bikini skin so much. That's because it removes so much of the potential things in the way of seeing the game itself. It just happens to be nice to watch and look at. Anyways, we're going to do a short break. We'll see you guys in just a bit for map number 3.
I want your soul. Hell unleashed!
Welcome back, everybody. We're entering a third map between Sentinels and DarkZero, and it seems like everything is coming to fruition that we thought the series would sort of result in, Vicky. We're now heading to a convoy map for our third game between Sentinels and DarkZero. Sentinels think this next map should be a good one for them, right?
Yeah, well, this is the thing, though. We're going on to Spider Islands, and I do not believe Sentinels has played on Spider Islands just yet. So they're taking the gamble here just because this is the map that DarkZero has fallen on. So trying to play into those strengths, that's something to consider because we've also seen certain teams, get pushed into maps that they may not shine on, yet still be able to make those adjustments to be able to take the dub. So we're going to have to see if this does flip the script here, considering that we have a tied series on our hands.
That would be interesting. I think, yeah, it's a good point because, Sentinels has fought pretty hard competition so far. And, not to say that DarkZero hasn't, but because they've had to make that reverse sweep to that lower bracket. Hardest competition being Nemesis, right? Being one of those top teams, the one that beat them in the upper bracket. But for that side, for Sentinels, the challenge against the 100 Thieves, it feels like 100 Thieves are never out of it, Vicky. Like, it seems like this team is somehow always good, even though a lot of us, I think, doubt them sometimes. They always manage to be a very, very solid team, and Sentinels obviously lost to them in the upper bracket, now have to play against DarkZero here and go to that Spider Islands map, like you mentioned. Neither of these teams, both of these teams could be questionable here.
I love how you bring that up too, just the history. It's like I always say 100 Thieves individually just have a built-in rage meter, right?
Yeah.
They just have to be their backs pushed against the wall.
Yeah. That's the team you would think would have broken up first before Sentinels, right? Because all of their drama is aired publicly. It's great. I'm sure it's healthy, right? Maybe that's why they say arguments for couples is good, Despite how toxic it may be to hear your neighbor yelling at his wife and his wife yelling at him. Sometimes at least they're talking, right? At least they're talking. You know what I'm saying?
That's true. We're seeing that here too with the way that Sentinels have to rework things, as well as DarkZero, how they said it in their interview, the way that they have to keep each other accountable. And now looking at the ban phase, we still aren't seeing the Atom get pulled off here. So both Atom and Mantis, once again, still stuck in ban jail, while Jeff, though, is off the table here because they're tired of seeing what Korova could do. He wasn't able to play that Jeff, I believe, last game too. So no Jeff once again, and no Captain America on the side of DarkZero, where they're going to be able to answer that after the experience they had in game number 1 versus Crimzo.
I like that ban jail. That's probably going to be a social media post later. Meanwhile, Luna, no, being on the opposite side. Just see little Jeffy behind bars, you know, trying to break out. Maybe with like a cup, you know, just ringing the barbell or whatever. Sentinels, though, I mean, you're right. Getting rid of Jeff now is smart because Kurova, you know, played it last map, but no torch ban yet again. Instead, targeting the characters that can maybe support it.
The right heroes could make all the difference.
Well, not that well. Not that well, though.
Well, yeah, so looking at the fact that now they've protected both the Ultron and the Invisible Woman, it's literally a copy-paste of what we just witnessed, at least for the safety picks of the last game, right?
Yeah. I mean, I guess at least they get rid of the Luna. I mean, yeah, Luna's good. Jeff's good, too. So, fair play. Fair play.
And the torch.
Yep, exactly. And it's I wonder how that's going to pan out for them, right? It's because we've seen... Again, I mean, I hate to say it. It's like a narrative and, you know, whatever. Sometimes narratives are drawn out for sure. But, I mean, just going off of recent history, Sentinels have to figure out how to play against Torch. I mean, they got absolutely dominated by Terra. Terra, you know, really kind of coming back onto the scene as one of those top DPS players, duelist players in the game. You know, has a good shout at it at all times, basically. But, yeah, I mean, it's tough for this team to deal with it. And maybe if they go against it today, they have a solution.
And we're going to have to see here now as we get started with game number 3. It is best of 5 once again. For those of you guys just tuning in, you've caught us in a banger of a match with Sentinels versus DarkZero. And already out of the gates, DarkZero going to be on that defense. Sentinels starting things off on the attack. They're the ones that chose the style that they want to be on here. Just looking at the stall opportunity here, too, that DarkZero could try to provide. Looking at Smash, Madara, they're going to utilize Why Amazing be on the Rockets and have that BRB.
Yeah, that makes sense. The triple yet again. If I remember right, DarkZero was pretty good, I think, at playing triple comp, but we'll see how Sentinels play against it. Usually it's a lot of those teams that, well, by the way, right, on the high ground, Velocity just sitting in Narnia, unfortunately watching his team die in front of him, right? It's just everybody's getting KO'd one after the other. Stalling it out, though, at the very least, but a good take from Sentinels at the very first point.
Yeah, they're going to have the number advantage. Honestly, seeing Kurova and Amazing in that side room, I know they were trying to sustain Madara there, but they were also caught off guard with Nectar taking a nice little cheeky angle as the recontest now from Impunity on the Doctor Strange allows them to move back in with Velocity still sticking onto that Loki.
Yeah, I'm kind of the opinion, oh my gosh, meanwhile, oh, Kurova, no! Close there for those greens, just walk forward to Velocity. Unfortunately, lose the BRB too. Kurova going to be sent back to spawn, does not have that from Amazing, who was, I believe, trying to move it because they didn't even break it. Nectar as well tracks down onto Amazing and Velocity, and right now, this backline is just not together, right? This was what I was going to talk about earlier, Vicky. Like, when they were on the inside room, I would have liked if Velocity was actually in there with them. I feel like the times we've seen the peel happen, it's usually when all three strategists are together.
The lamps, like the lamp opportunity, maybe it was probably disordered, like used up already early right before that, but the lamps would have come in clutch in a space like that. And Nectar is just a silent assassin right now, hanging onto the rooftops of Spider Island. You would think that Peter Quill himself could take a note from the Spider-Man book, but Nectar is dripping with not just sweetness, but just taste and sour with the taste he's leaving in DarkZero's mouth.
I mean, poor Impunity right now. He's not having a good time. Incoming. Oh my, goodbye. Sent into that feast for sure. That was Venom dining on the corpse of DarkZero strategists. And, I mean, Sentinels is absolutely snowballing right now, Vicky.
Oh no, Impunity just came back, and now he's looking at Nectar. He's like, "Ayúdame!" He used up the vine already. Now he gets a slam down back to his team. But Nectar's a problem, and in the second checkpoint, the win condition still remains the same, where he's gonna be a threat up on those roofs. People need to start splitting up that focus and actually target him, and Impunity needs to break that focus by harassing the backlines while still retaining being alive.
Yeah, usually Impunity is that consistent mainstay of DarkZero, so him going down there is brutal. Now they finally come back, put Torch on. Or Amazing on Torch, which honestly you could say for both, right? Is the Torch playing Amazing or is Amazing playing Torch? Sentinel's back to the spawn though. And now we're back on to seeing a comp that DarkZero, I'm sure, are comfortable playing with.
Amazing's like, enough of this triple Vanguard here. We got the triple strategist. That's all we need here with Smash playing that second duelist, the hybrid role that Ultron could take on here. Amazing's about that as Supernova, but you have to stay alive as Kurova has that invisible boundary. Saving that right on time here too, since it was a little bit of a slow build-up for that ultimate after the first two pickoffs that we saw. And now Sentinels, they do have 3 answers though after forcing out that invisible boundary.
Well, here's the Ultron's Rage, forces out that Luna Snow dance floor. Nobody going down either for DarkZero. In fact, it's Nectar to fall, who got grabbed, chokeslammed by Madara. And with that, I mean, Madara just closed it out, just by themselves. Huge work from the side of DarkZero and Madara on Emma Frost.
Oh, man, and you get the team up two together with the shield, by the way, that Kurova provides, being on the Invisible Woman, too. That's just something to highlight, considering that they didn't ban out that torch, whereas Sentinels can't use that. Here, as Avery does have that elimination ready to go, here, Velocity could counter that with the Eternal Bond, but Raimezi's going to want to try to keep them on this choke with that Supernova eventually.
Termination in the sky from the Ultron's Rage. He dodges around the corner to reduce his effect of the Sonic Seduction. In fact, comes back through and finds Vengeance. Avery again. You pointed it out earlier, Vicky. Nice shots there, and the follow-up from that Ultron's Rage. They did use also another earlier on with Techie, but still, good fight win on Sentinels.
Sweet moves, right?
Now looking at what's coming up next here, while Sentinels get more progress here on the point, and Nectar keeps controlling even more of this space. Aramori's got that invisible boundary, while Crimso's got that Sonic Seduction. Kurova's slowly approaching his own invisible boundary, but it's going to be opened up with the Sonic Seduction first, and Velocity was ready with the Eternal Bond to allow DarkZero to replant their feet on this defense.
And they're slowly stalling it out right now. Cart still pushing forward for Sentinels. Eventually that Eternal Bond will run dry. Supernova forces out Invisible Boundary from Aramori, so they're sustaining that out. Smash also has Ultron's Rage. Coming up is Kurova with that Invisible Boundary. Nectar. Can he get eliminations through that Rage and also those cooldowns from Cloak and Dagger? Looks like the answer is no, but the damage could be done because Madara falls in the front line due to, you talked about it earlier, the pressure provided to that back line.
Oh man, Crimson was ready too to try to help Pio as Velocity follows up and finds Nectar in the sky. Velocity says, I'll take matters into my own hands, swapping over to the Cloak to also get that reset on the reload, as well as Raimezi now getting that dive, sending back Sentinels to the choke, while the supports are playing patty cake to stay alive.
I mean, Rai, expert avoiding of the Emma Frost. The only way back into that fight was maybe if Crimzo gets a grab, but huge work from DarkZero to sustain through those ultimates, and now Sentinels have 60 seconds left to go, and this is looking very familiar, right? This is like the second phase of the map again for Sentinels on Central Park. We'll see if they can close it out, though, this time around, as they're on attack, right? They can maybe build that momentum. No ultimate, especially...
Oh, they got back.
They back capped it. Are you kidding me? Wait, who the hell? Who did that? That's the first time I've never recognized the back cap happening. What it is?
I heard the noise.
It was Nectar. Oh my goodness! I need to rewatch that. I'm sorry for missing that. That is a terrible caster moment. What a play from Sentinels. The back cap.
Back cap. Oh my. Nectar together with Techie, you cannot ignore this because the combination here between Sentinels are going to be able to try to get this dive opportunity to follow up between Techie and Nectar getting that cheeky play as Avery opening things up, splitting up the attention from DarkZero. The extermination now coming out next. You see the bubbles coming out here too, as Impunity does have the reset available with a Feast of the Abyss, but Sentinels are just not getting stopped here.
A huge play from Sentinels to get it done. But we'll see if the gimmick pans out. Here comes the Eternal Bond from Velocity's side. Slowed down with the Sonic Seduction, at least making sure that maybe we can't go for one shot with Impunity or something along those lines. Supernova, though, on the backside. Madara able to find Techie into the sky now. Nectar realizing he's shot Ultra Pop. Wants to come back through to this Invisible Boundary to stay alive, too. Making sure he hits the double pocket, by the way. Both Drone and Snowflake on him. Making sure that they pretty much aren't targetable. Nice tracking, by the way, in the sky. Then goes in with the blasters. All those cooldowns used. They lose Impunity, too, because of all the pressure that Nectar and the Vanguards, in terms of Techie, is providing.
The sustainability from Renko, as you highlighted, between the Snowflake here, too. Oh, my. He gets smashed, too, in the middle of the air. Who was so close to having the Ultron Rage. Now, Avery has it here. Sentinels could use this for not only spacing, but for that resustainability. But again, trying to enable Nectar is the goal here from Sentinels, as he's clearing the space and also continuously splitting up that backline, harassing them. The DarkZero have Velocity, are about to have that Eternal Bond here, too, as Smash has the extermination first to force them back.
And Nectar's putting the team on their absolute backs right now. If we talk about top-tier players, Nectar slowly but surely entering some of the best in the entire world, but DarkZero still have a chance to win it now. Madara finds Techie with the grab, also the kick into the wall. Eternal Bond also gives him a ton of sustain. Impunity trying to live on the backside. Aramori falls, though, to Velocity and Impunity, and nobody's there to touch again. No back cap this time around, Vicky. Sentinels get stopped again in third phase.
I'm just not over that back cap, dog, man.
That was crazy.
And what's crazy is that, you know how in the game, like sometimes the music kicks up when the time is running out and you feel your heart racing. Sometimes you got to look back to make sure no one's trying to back cap or whatever. But in that moment, you could hear the little tick noise just start up at the very end because they were so close originally. They just needed just a few little bit point something meters to get there. And Nectar did do it. They got the progress here. And that was great, too, considering the fact that DarkZero, they were looking pretty good with that torch.
I'm watching it back. By the way, nobody was on the cart. They just didn't cap it. DarkZero, I'm looking back at the VOD right now. That is the worst play I've ever seen, I think, out of a team. They just never capped the cart back.
They just never flipped it?
Yeah, so in Marvel Rivals, you have to cap the cart to have it push on attack.
Yeah.
DarkZero wiped everybody on Sentinel's side. They just didn't go back to cap the cart, Vicky. Are you?
Oh, my.
I've never seen that in pro play. No wonder we missed it.
I've never seen that even in my own game.
Oh my God! What a throw! I can't mentally recover from that.
No one was on that car.
I mean, at least they stopped.
I'm looking.
Yeah. Nobody was on the cart. You have to cap the cart. That is a feature, not a bug. That's a bug maybe in the AI of DarkZero, but DarkZero are human beings. That's why we watch humans play, not AI, I guess. Maybe I wouldn't have made that mistake. Maybe we should watch
Diabolical. I can't, man. I can't. There's no... I mean, but that's the difference maker, right? Marvel Rivals, you need to be able to have control over the point here, or else it's just going to have that progress all on its own. And it didn't need that much here in general, but GG, you go next here. We reset. Rymazing, by the way. Magic with Impunity being on Venom. Time to know, as Impunity is able to find Crimzo, Nectar gets the trade right afterwards. Avery is the next to go out, and Rymazing pulling up with the magic on this checkpoint, by the way, is cooking because we've seen this work before.
Yeah, I mean, it's a different look.
They haven't gotten progress, by the way.
And yeah, still haven't. They are terrible at the objective at the current moment, but regardless, that's because of Sentinels kind of throwing themselves to the cart. So, you know, DarkZero, they're improving as a cohesive unit. But it's a different look, right? Sort of Magic, same thing as Torch in terms of very reliant on the cooldowns. Rymazing goes in, trying to connect on that team up, and Techie on the backside finds Kurova already a little bit too far forward, but also trying to stay near velocities. So they're running out of steam, they're running out of momentum, and since they're a traditional, more 2-2-2 style composition, they're slowly falling apart. They don't have the healing to sustain Sentinels on that re-engage.
Yeah, if anything here, just look at Impunity coming back. He needs help. Impunity always in these tight situations. Velocity was also going to come back from the spawn room gates too. But Nectar taking to the skies. Has Rymazing in his sights here. Looking at Jeff from Renko. He's got the itch Jeff as he gets dove on by Impunity, who also has a reset with the Feast of the Abyss if he needs. But he's trying to split up this backline while Renko's getting distracted.
Yeah, great work right now by Sentinels to sort of sustain. Rai switching off, and everybody, in fact, switching off to making sure they're back to their regular comp. Rai, this guy taking shots from Avery. Probably has to fall back. Velocities, meanwhile, on the low ground on... Wait, Venom on... Wait, he copied Venom, I'm sorry, on Loki to find that one shot. It created a little bit of space at the very least, but they lose Smash, they lose Rymazing. Unfortunately, because they didn't copy a strategist, they just eventually collapse.
And that's what happens right there. You think you could try to go for a play like that, but imagine you would have had a strategist ultimate to... Oh, my, and he couldn't even have the opportunity to get into the full spawn room gates to get the healing. Oh, no. Now you're wasting even more time. DarkZero down a minute and less than 45 seconds here.
Yeah, Nectar's looking phenomenal throughout the series, right? Despite the situation they find themselves in 1-1, DarkZero now have to come back with their ultimate. Sentinels also. Same situation. Rocket ult out first. Here comes the Supernova on the backside from Rymazing to delete it, but he's taking so much damage. Eye in the sky, but it's shut down maybe. Kinda. Kurova still fall. Velocity fall. The peel is there. So even though you get grabbed out of the air, the job is done by Sentinels on the defense. Great push from them.
All around right now, there has to be changes, and DarkZero are making them. It's going to be the Hulk and Namor. Rymazing makes a swap because even if he's trying to find these picks and harass the backline here, even in the skies, it's not going to be enough because the way that Nectar and the front line from Sentinels are holding up this choke point, DarkZero are barely even making problem as Avery finds Smash.
I mean, they're looking shook right now. DarkZero is having to switch up to this composition when the Torch has been working on so well. Here comes... Well, Techie eventually goes down. Nice job with the Regenerative Domain save alive from that push of Techie, at least. But Avery eventually finds Madara, and Avery, the newcomer to the roster, has been also incredible. So this duelist lineup, and one of the duelists playing a strategist in Ultron, able to find huge picks now. DarkZero trying to fight this, still Smash on the backside, trying to equalize it. But here, on the opposite side, Galactic Legend Heal comes through with that invisible boundary, though. Same thing with those shields from the Invisible Woman. Jeff, in the meantime, will it find anything? Goes on the high ground, but Rye avoids it for now. They still have one trapped. Well! Amazing across the map. Stops the Jeff from flying off the map. However, Nectar's found velocity.
Remember when you were asking, what do you do when it comes to that Jeff? You have to reserve an ultimate for it. That's the best way to prevent the impact that a big Jeff ult can turn the tides. But Avery may just turn the tides himself, but he's only got 2 picks here. He's got to look around to see that the stall can really come out because overtime's ticking away. But it favors Sentinels here as Impunity is forced to pop the whole goal, to force to pop the reset here, and now looks behind him to stop the portal play.
I mean, these young guns of Sentinels are wiry. They have been all over DarkZero, and because of that, here comes Crimzo in the sky. Smash is gone. Wait, Crimzo goes down to Kurova, though. On the backside, rocket ult here from Aramori. Doesn't give them anything. It doesn't look like it. They're losing Techie. On the high ground, here comes Ultron's Rage from Avery, trying to equalize it. He's done it before. Can he do it again? Kurova invisible. Using the double jump. We know that cooldown is out. No longer can go invisible. Also, Madara did use that diamond form. Smash coming back with the portal on the backside. Incoming, Impunity finds Nectar. Out of the sky, takes him down. Nectar, though, gets brought back by BRB. Kurova takes on Avery. That has been a thorn in their side. But Techie, he still has that combo alongside Nectar with the Feast of the Beast if he wants to. Nice slowdown of Nectar, though. The stasis from Impunity to slow it down. That Techie also gets killed for by Smash. And they're starting to do it. DarkZeros, they're maybe going to close out here as they come back on Angela, of all things, Crimzo does. But as we know, Angela is one of the lowest HP vanguards in the game, so she can't stall that well, besides when she's the only anchor on the cart. Sentinels get stopped, or rather they get pushed off the cart, and DarkZero moving in the second phase of the map.
All right, Amazing cleaning up the cart like a janitor right now, just sweeping the floor real quick with all the squids here. But can we talk about that stall was insane? I was worried too, because at some points we saw Aramori being on that rocket, had that BRB, Nectar coming right back, but Impunity with that stun was crazy. Now leading up to this fight though, Velocity has that God of Mischief, something that Sentinels don't really have that sustainability, although if Franco stays alive, could boost up that Fit of Both Worlds just as quick.
We'll have to keep our eye on that. Velocity so far this series has been phenomenal. Also the captain of the draft in terms of picking the heroes before the series. Got maybe the characters DarkZero feels like are best, but it seems like the toughest champion to deal with today is the payload for DarkZero if they get stopped here. 1 minute and 41 seconds. Velocity goes aggressive with an invisible boundary and the copy of his very own Invisible Woman. And it's as you said, Vicky, maybe that got initiated was too much because Crimzo goes down in the neutral. So does Nectar.
Good amount of space here about it, and this is going to build into that win condition. Right, Amazing's going to be able to set up with these squids, and Sentinels will be able to come right back around, though, with some ultimates to work off of the invisible boundary. Renko already having that Fate of Both Worlds. Avery as well with that Ultimate Extermination. Crimson with the Sign of Seduction, but DarkZero have so much star potential here going into this next fight, as his Extermination is going to be the first thing to open things up, and Renko's going to try to keep them alive, as Avery is looking to get a lot more aggressive, but he gets saved here by that Lunastow ultimate. Kurova matches it here with the invisible boundary, and nobody is looking at Rye Amazing as he is safe in that invisible boundary for now. Has to utilize the whale to stop Techie from harassing his backline.
And now that they're off the Jeff on the defensive side, I'm sure he feels better about using that ult in that situation. Invisible boundary in the sky. Nectar trying to find something. Renko falls, though. Meanwhile, it's Impunity. As you talked about first point, and second, Impunity also commits the ult onto the Emma, slams her down, and unfortunately they lose even more members as Smash collapses, but Impunity has been an absolute game changer. Techie trying to stall it out with the Feast of Abyss, maybe trying to get another gimmick sort of back cap again. And they're actually getting the portal. He stalled out long enough. Techie goes down, sure, but the team is here. They can maybe back cap again as DarkZero maybe pushed off that objective. But no, this time it's Sentinels that are.
Yeah, Renko held forward right there, coming out of that portal, just trying to harass that backline, but without looking at that card. DarkZero walking into that second checkpoint now and are looking to create that space.
A minute and 30 seconds left to go, Vicky, and Sentinels have basically nothing, too. So they switch over to that Phoenix. This is something we've seen other teams do. In fact, we've seen Envy do it. And we'll see if it pans out for them. Kurova falls so low, but lives with their life.
to the reclaim here on the payload too. As you can see, Nectar making that swap up over to the Phoenix. Smash is gonna have to keep their eye on that with the extermination ready to go. Reclaiming the point is gonna be the first thing to start things off for this fight now, as Velocity also has that reset opportunity too once Smash is done here. Korova with the ball, the Invisible Woman is going to be able to take out Techie, who falls incredibly low, making the swap up here back onto the Venom, as Crimzos wants to get that Sonic Seduction, but it's first met with Moderate here. At Smash, they're holding forward. They're getting the follow-ups off of that Psionic Seduction.
I mean, I love it. I love the counter swapping going on right now for both sides. This is kind of the future of the game. You know, make them get used to certain play styles. You switch it up to Phoenix, but then also they switch back. So Rai reading that well. Supernova, Spawn Cam trying to come through. Nice freeze, though, from the side of Renko. Aramori, Invisible Boundary to stay on that objective. Also in the sky is Avery, trying to keep his Venom alive, who's trying to stall it out. Somebody has to anchor. We're right towards the end. Less than 5 meters to go, and we lose Techie in the sky with that Phoenix ult. The Ensign Confirmer does not connect with the ground. It gets eliminated in the sky, but we're committing the Luna Snow ultimate alongside Crimzo with that Sonic Seduction. Nothing found just yet, though. Everybody stunned up on the backside of DarkZero. Impunity trying to find the back line, but it's saved by the drone. Invisible Woman trying to dodge back and forth. Impunity trying to make sure that their presence is felt. Here comes Go towards right, 2 on the flank. Perfect timing. But Techie, here with the face of the Beast of the Best on the cart. Does it find anything? No. Vector again. Finding Korova, finding Velocity. Renko and Aramori fall. Both duelists immediately get traded out. Smash needs to play for the live. Has switch sides of the map. Nectar again. Going huge. Amazing falls. It's scrappy as all hell. Crimzo whips out the fist. Takes them Madara. And Nectar trying to stay alive in melee mode. Does something. It's a 1v1. And it appears he doesn't. Pushes off. The Jeff is here. But DarkZero. They win it out. It's 2-1 now. DarkZero.
Give the crown to Impunity right now. Give it to him right now. The way that he not only harassed that backline, took care of the strategist, prevented that stall out was crazy.
Oh my God. What a series between these two teams. You know, we thought, Vicky, that it was going to be a good one, but didn't know how good it was going to be. And you know what? If EMEA was a sign, it was a banger over there. We saw an incredible matchup between, I believe it was Navi and Chopped. That's probably wrong, but, you know, taking a look back at those games, they were phenomenal. Going over to this, Vicky, point is, we have some fantastic games in the group stages right now between DarkZero and Sentinels.
Dude, this is why we keep seeing Venom in jail as well. Like, this is crazy. And on this map too, by the way, he is so good. And Impunity just turned that fight around so hard. Smash was, by the way, was like one shot for like a solid minute. He survived for as long as he could before he eventually went down, because then you have just the Phoenix blasting in your face at the hands of Nectar. This was an insane game to watch.
Yeah, Impunity 100%. You know, statistical, sure. Statistics, you definitely goes to Rai, MVP-wise. Yeah. But, I mean, yeah, the impact can't be understated from Impunity. That was incredible. I mean, that turns, you know, narratively, potentially, you know how there's other hero shooters where C9 is a thing, where they don't touch the cart. In this game, it very well could have been a DZ in the future. You know, that's something you need to prevent. You don't want to be known for a terrible thing. You know, we have Necros, the human candle. On this side, we have Rymazing. Sorry, that's me. Sorry, Necros. But yeah, Rymazing with the Tridents has been beautiful. And then switching back to the Torch yet again on that third phase. Great work from Ryan.
Oh, the sending out the sounding of the 7th trumpet with the Namor ultimate too, getting 2 KOs at some points, opening up a lot of space. Actually combating that of the Jeff ultimate from getting any impact once he swallowed up those strategists. 43 KOs for Rymazing, only going down 9 times there. You know they're upset after what happened for that second checkpoint, but they went forward and they were able to reset mentally too, going in for that attack.
Well, we will be entering the realm of the Sentinels once again, probably, Vicky, as well. No, it's going to happen. We're going to Domination again. That's the first map and the only map Sentinels won so far. And, yeah, I mean, you pointed out earlier how Sentinels on these Convoy and Convergence maps, it seems to be a problem for them at the current moment.
Yeah, I'm wondering here if Domination's going to do them that justice, considering that DarkZero are currently now 2-3 on Domination here, whereas Sentinels having a 4-0 success rate, it's going to be interesting, because I'm expecting this to go to distance anyways here, Dogman. I wouldn't have it any other way.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. This is a banger. If you are missing it, you are crazy, because, you know, if you've been watching or paying attention at all to Rivals Esports, this is a matchup that not only has, you know, feuds in it, has revenge potentially on the table, on the docket, but we'll find out more as DarkZero are on map point. We're going to enter map number 4 after this break. Welcome back, everybody. We have the series between DarkZero and Sentinels going on in this lower bracket finals of the group stage in stage 2 of the Ignite series. And Vicky, that was an incredibly back and forth game. And luckily for DarkZero, we're not going to remember it for maybe a reason that they would definitely not want us to.
Yeah. We'll have some replays to show you guys later on after we had just rewatched that ourselves. But they take it. They take it despite what had gone down there. They came through. Impunity came through. Amazing with the swap ups too, whether it be the Namor or the Torch composition that rode out there. And they take Spider Islands, leaving them in the lead 2-1 currently versus Sentinels. But now we move on to domination. As you highlighted, Dogman, that's where Game 4 is always going to reset us to, as we reset through the game modes now. And if you look at the stats here, Sentinels have a heavy advantage on domination maps versus DarkZero, where they're down 2-3, whereas Sentinels are up 4-0.
Yeah, that's a great point. I'm curious to see if DarkZero can rebound, right? That's kind of been the take of the series. It's both of these teams are needing to improve, right? Or were needing to improve going into this, right? They both have, glaring weaknesses. In this case, for DarkZero, they kind of sometimes struggle going for those full dives, domination, like you said, kind of getting that sort of team synergy on pace. And then for Sentinels, dealing with Torch has been a big problem. Let's take back a look at the highlights of that map, Vicky. And, some might call this lowlights at points, but for DarkZero, they capped out the map in close fashion with Impunity, and Sentinels, they're now on map point, or at least DarkZero on map point.
Yeah, they are. And don't let this fool you, right? It is best of 5 here, but it's a nice little clip here that you could probably put on your fridges and enjoy it yourself if you could do that with clips. But if you get to look back on it and see what happened on the point, you and I were here left wondering, usually it makes a noise too when it does flip, and I'm wondering, did I miss out on the noise here? I just heard a little bit of meterage where it starts ticking away. Look at that. No, Motorola is the perpetrator. Oh my, he was like, I want in. I want the KOs. I want the KOs so bad. I see everyone having fun.
The thing is, oh man.
Caught in 4K.
Yeah.
Got caught in 4K.
I mean, we literally look at the observers going back at it. He's like, hello? Anybody in the car? Hello? Even our observers recognize it. Guys, bad news. Bad freaking news. Kurova tried last second too. Kurova's like, guys, the car. Oh no. Oh my God. The comms must have been so chaotic. I would do anything for that VOD. To listen how they reacted, that would be beautiful. But you know what? I don't fully, as we recover emotionally from that. I wonder, maybe Madara missed the cart because he used to be a MOBA professional, if you didn't know, and maybe he's used to the top-down perspective, right? He's used to having all the information given to him. So being in a third-person sort of like cone view, right? I mean, there's no excuse. You got to touch the payload.
He's ready for Daredevil.
He's ready for Daredevil. He's ready.
Honestly, though, I feel like this is all something to take away from. Despite that happening, the fact that DarkZero, just honestly, they would destroy me in any case or day. But it's the fact that DarkZero was able to just reflect and reset is another level of professional player that you have to focus on, because again, at the end of the day, they can still win this. It doesn't matter. They go next. They did end up winning. And now we go on to game number 4, back on domination, where we actually did see DarkZero go back and forth against Sentinels a few times here, where Sentinels looked a lot stronger in that second round here, but it's going to be Hell's Heaven this time around. It's not going to be the Krakoa that we saw before.
Yeah, not today. But we see both teams prioritizing the Ultron that we've seen throughout the series. No ban store at this time. Everybody focusing on the Mantis. We see other series, I think, deviate, but not this one. But yeah, C9s, or I guess, well, it would have been a DZ if they lost the map, but fortunately they didn't. Usually you don't have a name for something until it happens multiple times, right? It's not fair. Even though that was the craziest one I think we've seen in pro play and ever.
I think so too.
But regardless, they won, right? So if you win, it kind of. And I think it'd be unfair.
It's like PEMDAS. It cancels out. It cancels out.
Exactly. You remember the last shot, the one that wins it, not the pretty brutal moments. Although, I made a couple $1,000s off of a C9 at one point, which is great.
Oh, shit.
Big fan of them. The shock when I had my boy Erster push them off the car. It was good times. Made another 20K or something.
Lessons.
Yeah.
And we get to see the ban phase now coming forward for this potential last game. If we see DarkZero ending up Oh, yeah, they did. They finally banned out the torch. I mean, it took a while, honestly. We were talking about this before because they didn't even ban the torch against 100 Thieves despite Terra running it all 3 games in a best of 3. But now they ban out the torch and they ban out the Jeff here too. So they focus majority once again on the strategist. But the torch being that last ban, while the saves still look the same for both sides between Invisible Woman and Ultron.
Yeah, let's see if that's enough, right? That's the biggest point we mentioned and that you mentioned. I mean, Sentinels have a new coach, right? They've picked up McGravy. They picked up Avery as a leader of the team alongside Renko, a very experienced player. So it's not just Crimzo making these decisions anymore in the ban phase. And, you know, it could very well be like a too many cooks in the kitchen situation, right, Vicky? Like maybe you have too many big brains trying to make plays, trying to say what's good, right? And then you kind of end up stagnant, right? Like I feel like a lot of the top teams we've seen across regions deviate their bans. They have dynamic bans. Both of these teams are just maintaining the same stuff every game.
Yeah, it shows the comfort that they're trying to lean into just in case the majority of other main strategists are banned out, right? In case it's the Luna in this case, you want to lean into the Invisible Woman. And what's crazy is that usually when you see that Invisible Woman save first, that's why you saw Sentinels ban out the Torch, right? Because something we highlighted in Spider Islands is the Invisible Woman and Torch team up. You get that extra shield, which really comes in clutch. The ban onto the Torch on the other side, though, now Sentinels can't rock that either. They haven't really been able to as well. So no team up with the Invisible Woman for either side here.
And it's going to be a big play for sure as Sentinels portal. They're going to go for a kidnap play again. Looks like everybody's mobile characters. Did they try to change it up? Madara does. They just go over the top side and drop down.
Oh, that looks funny here. Before he drops right on top of their head to try to take the fight to them to wrap around here. Crimzo does get stunned. Impunity being back on that Hulk with Rymazing trying to utilize those Gamma Squids already set into position. Helped out with that portal originally, and Nectar taking a good chunk of that damage.
Yeah, you just see subtle pot shots from Smash there. But Nectar farming up that ultimate quickly. Has the pocket as well as the BRB if he does go down. So they can play aggressive. And Techie's doing so, but wait, maybe he's out of range of that BRB too. Because you have to be within a certain range. Yeah, Techie's not going to get brought back. However, Crimzo will be. And that means that they're missing their Vanguard, one of their Vanguards, the Venom in this fight.
Trying to disrupt the piece and try to split more of that attention. So this is going to allow DarkZero just to walk in and retake this point first. As now Sentinels regroup together, they will have Avery with that extermination. It's going to be the first team to be opening up this fight. Smash is going to try to match up, but Kurova going down is so important with the invisible boundary not available here. And now Renko having the ability to utilize the Jeff. The whale comes out right on time. Talk about by a pixel.
Yeah, and Rye again, Nectar in the sky. I mean, is it going to be enough with Crimzo on the main side? It looks like it is. So as good of a play as that was from Rye. And Panini built up ult. Oh, he doesn't get to use it though. They just go for the reset actually. In the meantime, maybe they could have tried to clutch it up, but regardless, I mean, this is an incredible series as the stagger of the Bruce comes through. Rest in peace. He's put in jail today, not ban jail this time though. And you see incredible focus towards these Jeff, it seems, Vicky.
And there's a reason why. There's a reason why we've been seeing these Jeffs get banned out. DarkZero couldn't play it last game. It was available for Sentinels in the previous game before that, but it's the focus on these Jeffs here, as now Sentinels getting to position with Techie having the reset opportunity. Crimzo having that silent seduction too, but Kurova's got the survivability as the choke slam comes out to shut down Techie. There is no way he can pop that Feast of the Abyss as he gets finished off by Smash. And the invisible boundary now from Kurova is going to allow them to push up onto this point. Rymazing finding Avery up in the sky. Aramori still brings him back to the BRB, but the number advantage is here in DarkZero's favor.
I mean, Namor does so much in these neutrals because of the squids provided, which he will lose in the next patch, but it's going to get changed out, obviously, for something maybe even better. But now the Venom with the Feast of the Abyss trying to stall it out, gets the drone, right? The healing is there from his team, but the point flipped for DarkZero regardless, and they slowly walked back Sentinels in that fight.
You want to reclaim the point, getting extra progress now too. Look at the ult economy that they're working off of, right? 5 ultimates online here for favor for them, but I'm looking at Renko right now with that Jeff ultimate that's slowly coming online. He probably wants to wait for Kurova to have that invisible boundary to have everybody grouped up together, but it's going to be the extermination, the Ultron ultimate from both sides first, and the dance off of the fate of both worlds from Velocity. Rymazing can get into position to just utilize that will to use it against Renko specifically as he's caught Aramori once again.
Armory going down is huge. I mean, that's a big ult out of the fight. What's going to counter these Jeffs, right? Or at least in the side of Renko. It's that whale yet again. We've seen whale greater than shark time and time again. Will it happen with 80% of the board? I mean, DarkZero are just kind of coasting currently. Sentinels are going to walk in soon, surely, with this Guardians of the Galaxy, or this intergalactic legend in the sky. Different team. Grimzo able to trade Dakwadara. Rymazing down Techie, so they trade Vanguards. Sentinels actually take the point with that, though. They're using the Rocket Ult, using the Sea Later alongside that Guardian. I mean, that's enough for them to take the point. DarkZero, give it up.
It's fine, though. DarkZero gets to peel away here, try to protect the Stratus backline while still punishing Techie at the same time, while Crimzo getting stunned here with Impunity jumping right back at the hands of the team. DarkZero and Rymazing still holding on to that whale to look at when Renko decides to use it, and with the invisible boundary coming up, this may be the green light as Avery utilizes that extermination. Renko goes down, won't even have the opportunity to press the button, so now Rymazing gets to save the whale. Renko gets taken out, and now we're going to have Sentinels try to portal in.
They have to. I mean, Crimzo thought he maybe was on the point to stall it out, but portals here, like you mentioned, in the sky. Everybody's healthy, but Rye holding on to that whale. Eventually, I mean, he's been saving it the whole time. The Jeff on the high ground, understanding the whale's going to be used for him. Techie gets taken out by Smash and Rez, though, so Renko finally learned not dying to that whale this time, but Avery goes down to velocity, and I think that means he's not going to be in time for that portal. Meanwhile, the Game of Squid takes down Nectar 2 on the backside. I mean, Ryan is doing so much this map. Madara on to Techie. Sure, you got rid of Torch, but I mean, right now, DarkZero look great with Namor and Hulk.
They're trying to turn that score around for this type of game mode, right? On domination, they're tired of it. They want to try to even things out. They're down 2-3, and now they're looking great for that first round. The Namor being the problem. Rymazing's awareness as well and helping to peel for Velocity and Korova, while Smash takes a little bit more of that hybrid approach in creating space and even putting in pressure to open up the fights. Just lets Rymazing hold back and then punish Techie whenever he thinks he has an opportunity to dive in.
Phenomenal work out of DarkZero. We'll see if they can close out on Sentinels in round number 2. We're headed to the Eldritch Monument. And with that, also ultimates on their table, on their board. I mean, last time we saw this, it was a complete disengage of DarkZero, but I think there's, on this map, Vicky, there's like way more space to, you know, play slow and take cover. It could be more open, I would say, for this ultimate combination of Sentinels, but I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
I was gonna say, I'm happy that Techie is swapping, although, yeah, you do have a lot more space. You have the pillars too, right? So you can try to mix up your landing, try to get some dive resets too. Yeah. But the same thing could be said for like the Ultrons. They could utilize these pillars just to be able to get out of line of sight of the opposite team. And this could also benefit Nectar. Rymazing could set up with these squids here over to the side, split more attention as Crimzo's trying to take the lead. And Aramori at least has that CR available, but Velocity also having the sustainability of Fate of both worlds.
I mean, you can see what Sentinels have done. Oh, wait. Oh, my God. DarkZero. Yeah, Velocity finds Techie. Rez, though, brings them back. At the very least, that Rocket Ult gets deleted. Into the sky, though. Nectar's going. But it's into a Strat ult. Meanwhile, on the backside, Impunity slams down Crimzo. And then the follow-up is there from Korova. And no more BRB to bring back Crimzo in this fight. And Rai, again, closes out, puts his stamp on things with the elimination of Renko.
It's the slow turnaround from Nectar to look at his team getting slammed onto the ground by Impunity being in the Hulk form and then having to just do nothing about it because he's got that legendary activated, wants to clear space. Even better look as DarkZero, once again with Rymazing being on this Namor, is a problem that is not getting focused.
I was going to say, I felt like Nectar, I think, throughout the series has felt maybe the Star-Lord stuff isn't really panning out for them. It's seemed to me like maybe they want to switch to something else, and here it is. Now they're on Phoenix and on Bucky. Avery with the pull. Doesn't connect. In the meanwhile, Sky Smash coming in with the Ultron's Rage. Bubble. Oh, to the same Velocity. Where did that Invisible Woman shield go? Techie, nice pick on a Velocity. He's removing a huge player in that Loki out of the fight.
Oh, I was looking for Kuro's positioning right there too. Rymazing now looking at these swaps, still has a squid set up and still harassing Techie. He sends out the whale after the Magneto bubble was called in, and in the Invisible Woman ultimate, Rymazing walks up, takes out another member, Avery, off the table, so he won't even get that Bucky reset here too. And Madara, the way that DarkZero is cycling through his ultimates in the next fight, Velocity will have that God of Mischief, and Impunity still has a reset opportunity here being on the Hulk.
I mean, they're stalling it out at the current moment. 70% of the board. Smash comes back with the portal. And like you said, the Hulk is in there. Sentinels portal's back. They're also stalling with the Invisible Boundary. Nectar coming up with the Inside Inferno. Avery finds the pick. And keep Sentinels alive in the series, because if they were to lose it here and now, it could be over. Combination with Nectar again. We've seen this before, and you can see why these two were paired as a DPS, as a duelist duo. It's combinations like this, but, you know, is it too little too late, Vicky? We'll find out as, you know, DarkZero, they built 92% as that point flips.
As long as they cycle through these ultimates properly, I don't think so. This is a beautiful counter swap that we're seeing from Sentinels. They can take care of the squids just as easily here. Velocity being on Loki allows for the reset to come out from Avery even easier, being on that Bucky. So that's something they have to consider with Velocity, at least having that God of Mischief to start things off. They can copy Kurova, they can start off the Eternal Bond, maybe start off an engagement.
And walking in, you said that with a sustain is going to be the biggest thing. Can Sentinels live? The copy from Velocity goes in with that Eternal Bond. Also, they have Terror Cape. You use Rymazing's invulnerability, but also nobody's left with anything, so they have to give up the point. You don't have Straddle. Boom! Whale in the back line. Impunity's there to follow it up. Can he get eliminations? Is the patty cake enough to keep them alive? It looks like the answer is no. Armor and Renko fall Crimzo as well. That's the anchor gone. No portal from earlier as well because they used it. And Sentinels are losing everybody. DarkZero are trying to close out in overtime. Close out versus their Nemesis. As they took down Nemesis before, they take down Sentinels now. DarkZero and Kurova and Rymazing get revenge.
They take the series, DarkZero, your winners, in a 3-1 fashion versus Sentinels. That last fight, they knew when they walked in, they had the impact, they had the follow-ups after he sent down the whales to split them apart, that they were going to take that win. That was literally the series-winning fight for DarkZero here, as Velocity is your MVP.
Ooh, I mean, well-deserved, but the whole team played well from DarkZero, and that's the biggest thing. I think the biggest narrative that we can talk about is they've overcome their issues. It seems like, right, they're going to have to go against 100 Thieves, in which don't believe they actually played against them, by the way, Vicky. So this is going to be the first time we would see 100 Thieves in DarkZero, a brand new matchup, which is always awesome, right? I mean, over on the opposite side, we have FlyQuest and Envy again. That's a rematch, and that's exciting. But also, a new challenger approaches the 100 Thieves team that is stuck together for millennia.
Yeah, that's going to be a matchup that I'm very interested to see, because 100 Thieves being the team that sent Sentinels down to that lower bracket, and now DarkZero beating Sentinels in the same way, right? Because, well, although it was a best of 3, 100 Thieves beat them 2-1. Now we have a situation where it's a 3-1, and now going into the grand finals, we get that best of 5 situation going out.
And I wonder, you know, looking back at the board, I mean, I imagine it's obviously tough, right, to lose a match like this, but you know, at least Sentinels gets to go back, right? They're qualified for those playoffs. They still have a chance, right? And they get top 3. They get the 3rd seed in this case to go against on the opposite side, either Envy or, oh my God, FlyQuest. So, you know, gonna be kind of a tough matchup probably for them, regardless of the result of that grand final tomorrow. But damn, what a series that was, Vicky. It was a pleasure to watch it with you, because, I mean, I am sure all our viewers in the same boat. That was a super fun one between these two teams, and Velocities, like you mentioned, is our MVP.
Gonna see who Sentinels will be facing off against once we get that seeding figured out here. Velocity coming away with 16 KOs. We talk about having that Loki and how dangerous it could be against a Bucky, but that was a last-minute swap from the Bucky from that second to last fight, rather that previous round. But then looking at the way he was able to get the Eternal Bond, start off that final fight, Velocity made those swap-ups here, and he was looking great too, right? He had like over 6 final hits there on the Loki, still putting in the majority of the healing too, with that 19k healing. And that's with Hughes talking about like his positioning over on Spider Islands, maybe reworking that with the way that he was able to position to help out that back line.
Yeah, there was so much done by him. He's definitely one of the best players in the game, strategist-wise, and I think that's going to be something we see moving forward. We talked about at the very beginning. It's the Jeff play. It's the strategist play. I mean, across the board, it does feel like the strats are kind of dictating the game at the current moment. Some of these top-tier players can really change things, and that was kind of at least my biggest takeaway from when I watched the games last night. And in preparation for today, it was like, yeah, I mean, all these really good strategist players, Vicky, seem to kind of keep their team alive and then force the other team to play differently, right? Like, it feels like Dreamland was in that boat. Rad today had a really hard backline to go against. So I don't know about you. It feels like the backlines, the strategist players have been a mainstay and been the focal point of this Ignite series.
I agree. You have to talk about survivability, and Kurova did just that too at the very end, between the mix of the Invisible Woman, even the Cloak and Dagger at the very end, which we saw Velocity copy off of. And it's important, the foundation here too. Even in that last game, I'll be honest, Techie not really looking up to form there, whereas that's very uncharacteristic. Techie usually being a really good MVP player, but just did not have anything going here.
Yeah, you can see the cracks start to show, and Sentinels fall there. And 100 Thieves, meanwhile, are going to be in that grand finals for their group against DarkZero to fight for that first place spot. And we talked about how if we think, Group A, for example, is a group of death, or if you think Group B is the group of death, if you're on that camp too, I mean, you have to win this grand finals, right? You have to make sure you stamp your victory, because otherwise, you're going to have a tough opponent, especially if, Dreamland's good, if Rad's actually really good, or from the opposite side, I mean, you're against Nemesis. There's no easy teams left in North America.
Dude, these two series that we're gonna have with 100 Thieves versus DarkZero and FlyQuest versus Envy. This is like peak cinema. We are literally getting peak Marvel Rivals Ignite action.
Yep.
This is gonna be such a banger. I cannot wait to see how this fares off against each other.
Yeah, I'll be co-streaming that baby for sure. That's gonna be a lot of fun, and also make sure to watch all of our co-streamers alongside. If you are fans of J3, of Necros, of all those guys, of Space, I believe is watching. We got a lot of awesome gamers. Sorry if I didn't shout you out, but all of our co-streamers are awesome for supporting the scene, watching it alongside their viewers. So, Vicky, today was an incredible day. I think that was a great set of matches to set up tomorrow, like you said. So, I mean, it's going to be a banger regardless. 2 grand finals back to back, and then that sets up next week, which is our playoffs.
Oh, man, time is flying by. I want to talk to somebody here from DarkZero, man. I want to pick their brains and see how they're feeling about now looking at that matchup that we have waiting for us tomorrow. It's just, especially since 100 Thieves look mortal, right? Yes, they've been winning all their series, but there's cracks too over there. And kind of talking to Tara yesterday alone. Tara, by the way, so like monotonous, like another day at work, just guy means serious business and unfazed. I asked him for his opinion, I believe, against DarkZero versus Sentinels, and even giving credit where it's due, both teams being as strong as they are. He thought it was going to go the distance. We did too. Although it did end in that 3-1 fashion, it's looking like the high-level talent in the Americas region, them trying to find the cohesion after the roster swaps has finally stabilized.
I love it. I love it. I mean, I think that, over here, it does seem like there's not as much of that, like, wholesome, everybody praising each other type thing. Like EMEA, it feels like after every team that gets eliminated, it's like I'm going to a funeral. It's like, oh, I'm sorry, these guys lost. They didn't go to Atlanta. They're such a good team. We should have 4 slots. And listen, I agree for sure. However, it's funny because over here, everybody just hates each other. It's like we beat those guys, and we're like, in North America, they're like, yeah, screw those guys. They suck. They're actually complete cheeks, and they are the worst team of all time, even though they're a top 4 team and definitely good. It's just more so, I mean, not everybody's praising each other, Vicky, over here is what I'm trying to say. Everybody has egos, and, it's awesome. I think it makes for exciting matches like we just saw between these two teams. And speaking about an incredible interview target, that was a bad transition. We have Rymazing with us today from this team of DarkZero, transitioning over to the dark side with that jersey, or shirt, rather, in this case. What's up, Ry? How's it going? Congrats on your W. How you feeling, bro?
Hey, I feel good. I mean, it was a hell of a game. It was a good series. I'm just happy that I feel like I made the right decision, I guess, by leaving. So, a bit of a grudge match, I guess.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I got to be careful. You got to be careful with me too, because we've known each other for a while. So I got to keep it PR, hopefully. In your case, like you said, it was a bit of a grudge match, but also with this new team, you guys are looking good and looking like a lot more formed, I guess. Like, I don't know. Over this past week, it seemed like you guys are still trying to gel. Is that kind of true? Or are you guys sort of still figuring each other out and stuff like that, even in the draft phase, maybe?
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think we had like some flukes against Nemesis, and I think we're still kind of like learning. And I think this team needs still a little more time in officials. It's getting a little chaotic in the comms for sure, but no, we're definitely a strong team, I think. And we just, with a little bit more time, I think we'll be really, really strong.
Do you guys think you're going to have enough time to figure that out against 100 Thieves for tomorrow here? Considering like, we talked to Tara yesterday, and they were looking forward to the series too, to see how this was going to play out here. But 100 Thieves kind of being one of those teams where, although they've been winning, they've still been dropping games. Do you guys feel like you're going to be in full form for that series?
I think we can definitely beat them. I don't remember the last time I lost 100 Thieves, to be honest. I think it's been at least like 7 series or something. But, it's a new team, so we have some stuff to work out still, and I think it'll be a good match.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, taking a look at it is interesting that you guys haven't had to play against them, because like you said, you had to go against Nemesis again. And I think that's like I don't know, like last week, it was definitely like apparent that you guys were still kind of gelling. This week, you look very good. What kind of changed, I guess, in your guys' like comm structure or or maybe just comps? Like, why do you guys look a lot better this week rather than last week? Because a 3-1 over Sentinels is actually a pretty damn good, solid win.
I think we figured out a lot with the draft. I think like our first match against Nemesis, we just kind of let them have Mantis both games. I think that was like a big flaw. But I think we also just kind of needed a little bit more time in these official matches. I think we're kind of all nervous that first match, and but we've kind of worked out the antics. I think we're looking good now.
Yeah, fair.
Now, I like your mentality here. I have to ask too, how were the vibes when you guys were going to play off against Sentinels and Korova kept getting those Jeff eats? I just need to know, like, was Korova like giggling, kicking his feet at the same time?
I mean, I think we're all pretty excited. Obviously, it's a fun match. I mean, Sentinels, they played their best and it wasn't good enough. But honestly, though, on all seriousness, no hate to them. Still my friends, love them all.
Yeah.
Good team, but I think we showed up today, and match day we showed up and beat them, and I think we'll do it again tomorrow against 100 Thieves.
Yeah, that's good to hear. I'm sure a lot of your fans of Sentinels and your fans too like to hear there's no bad blood there. And I guess two things. We'll let you close it out, obviously, but we'll to not leave it on a negative note. I want to mention this up first. What happened with that C9 that in the second phase of Spider Island? No. I've never seen that. Right? What the hell?
I don't know, man. I just heard screaming C9, the points moving. And I guess we just forgot. I was just a classic C9. We forgot the card.
Classic. Yeah. At least you guys won, so we could forget about it, right?
Yeah. Well, we won anyway, so yeah.
Exactly. And
tragic.
That's what. You guys gotta post that comm. I wanna hear the screaming. Probably a lot of swears though, so maybe not. Rye, by the way, any last shout outs, any things you want to say before we let you go? Because it's our time for you to get some rest and also us to wrap up.
So I shout out J3. Every time we shout him out, we win. So I'm gonna keep the trend going. Shout out J3.
Oh God, he's gonna bust it down again. Thank you, Rye. Appreciate you stopping by, man.
All right, thanks guys. See you.
All right. Well, Vicky, that was an incredible series that we just had. And, that's only the start, right? We're about to finish it out, but